Right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to XRS Plus, the official podcast for X Racing Series. It's been a long time, but we are back, and I'm very, very excited. I don't like my camera angle. I'm gonna change it. I'm changing it. I'm changing it while I can. I'm changing it while it doesn't matter. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back.
Cancel. I've just thrown my AirPods across the room. Sorry, give me a second.
Sorry, I'm ready to go. I'm just excited.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to XRS Plus, the official podcast for X Racing Series. It's been a long time, it's been a whole season, but we are back. The cameras are on, the mic is on, Raven's on a PC now, and he is all set up in his rig. I'm in my racing chair, but it's not as fancy as his, as you can see. We are back for an incredibly highly anticipated video. It is the season predictions. We do them every season. For those of you who are new, every season, me and this man beside me get onto a podcast and yap our opinions. A man who does not need any introduction, the owner of the league, the Ferrari team principal. It is Raven West. How are you doing, my friend?
Hello. It's good to be back on the podcast. Good to be talking to all again. Good to be just chatting, getting some opinions out there. Hopefully jumping a wee bit of hype for the season ahead. Ups and downs over the last few seasons. It's been as a competitor and both as a team principal and as a driver, it's been totally frustrating. But from league growth aspects, it's been phenomenal. There's been lots of positive aspects and elements everywhere. So yeah, it's gonna be back in the podcast. Gonna be sharing the love again. I'm hoping to get into a good set of predictions, and I can't wait to hear how Abby thinks he's gonna win everything.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one because this is the first season we've ever done this where we've been in different teams before, and we've been in the same teams before, but we've never both been a TP of different teams, which is interesting. We're now getting a different level of it. Yes, for those of you who are new, and we got a lot of new members last season, so you might not be aware. Back before last season, we used to do, obviously we have the predictions video where we'll go through all the drivers and all the constructors of every division, and we'll go through our OCC predictions. We also used to have weekly ones. I'll try and bring them back. It's been a tricky season for me moving into uni and everything, but I'll try and bring them back, and I'll be nagging Raven to get on as many podcasts as possible, I know, because he is a fan favourite to be on them. But yes, we're going to get stuck into these. I cannot wait. It's a really, really close season. And I think now, after last season as well, we've got 5 stacked divisions. A lot of really big names coming into the top as well, which is making the league a lot quicker. It could go a lot of ways. There could genuinely be a division here where our top 3 is completely different. There's not the same people. What do you think?
It's kind of a big reset has been done almost with the divisions. Like it's almost as if there's been like a regulations change, like you get in real life, where it's kind of the floors been open, the snow glow's been shaken, and like where the dust will settle will be in a new order. So I'm interested to see where that order sets. There is obviously early doors teams looking strong, early doors teams looking maybe on the weaker side. As there is every season, but there's an opportunity with the sense of just a complete open field for any team to really kind of capitalise on this entirely new divisions and these new brackets and these new boundaries and these new paces and just so many drivers of new divisions. That's obviously mixed the teams up a lot because a lot of teams have gone from having 4 drivers in the same division now, so that's obviously changed the mix of teams around a wee bit. And again, that's an opportunity for TPs to really get their teeth into some good drivers and some good talent that were previously locked away at the higher teams. So it's definitely interesting to see which teams are going to capitalise on that. I definitely think some already have. There's opportunities for others to do some more, and some are going to do better than others, and that's what's going to be really key to decide for the last game that's going to be on. Sorry, the last season that's going to be on this game on 24. So I'm very, very much looking forward to setting it off with a bang, because it's been an ups and down game with handling model changes and everything in between. It's been an interesting year of F1, and I'm hoping to end the game with a good season. Let's end it on a high.
So as we do, we have our top 3 in the drivers, and then we give our prediction on who wins the Constructors Championship. Would you like to go first? Who is your P3?
P3, I've gone for Karma. I think that
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's got the potential to kind of. I think he's got potential to really kind of put some results in there. You saw from the look, we have to judge a lot of these obviously on the back end of last season, because that's really where the drivers who have stayed in the divisions, you can kind of get a gauge for where they are compared to the people who have also stayed in that division.
Yeah.
As obviously some people have come down in some places, but I think in a lot of cases, fast people have moved up more than fast people have moved down in divisions. So it's a lot of the people who have stayed in divisions who are near the front or top of the midfield last season. They're going to be like in the ones in really, really strong positions. And I think Karma's one of those people who is going to really see himself break into that front. If he does everything right and he does things that he did last season, at the end of last season, I think he's can definitely be he's going to get the opportunities to be at the front there. And he just gives me a good vibe. I don't know, maybe this is the word Karma is his name, but I get good vibes from him in the sense of that he's going to put some good. He's going to take those opportunities well. He's going to put himself in the right places, and he's going to secure lots of points and probably get there in the title fight.
Yeah, nice. I like it. P3. I've gone for Throwing Globe. I think it's a bit of a almost a niche one. It's Throne had a very good season 3. He narrowly missed out on the championship to Walker. Season 4, I mean, they both kind of, I think they both got almost thrown up. I think Div 5 was the fastest we've ever had it. And that they almost got swallowed by the pack, I'd say. Some of the other names, your Brownless and your Pandas and your Blakes, were just a bit of a step ahead. We saw by the end half of the season, certainly by the end, I think Walker and Throne were both finding their feet. They were both beginning to get quite competitive with those front boys. Now those guys have been moved up, and I think that opens the door for those two to be having a little look at the championship. I have gone for Throne because I know how determined he is. He is one of the more consistent in that division, and we started seeing him having little peaks up at the front even last season with the big names that were there. So I've gone for Throne P3. I think I'm excited to see what he can do.
To be honest, Throne's my if we did P4, Throne's my P4. I think he's gonna be he's gonna be up there. I think it's between. I think for me, if I put Cameron there because I was between Throne and Walker for my third spot. I think judging off last season, obviously season 3, Walker got the better of Throne. Last season, Throne got the better of Walker. So I take the most recent results. Throne's in the better form right now. He's probably he's more the favourite to be higher up this season. It's all apparent Walker to turn back to what he did in season 3. But I think Karma's going to sneak past both of them. They're almost going to get caught up in the old fight. They're going to get caught up in season 3's fight where they were fighting for the title. And they're going to squabble over each other. I think they're going to cost each other opportunities. The Karma's not going to necessarily be involved in as much. He's more of a impartial to those kind of fights. Now that's at the front. He's new to this Div 5 front fight where those two old boys, they might trip over the fact they're old boys. And that's why none of the old boys are actually in my Div 5 top 3 because of that reason. I think they're going to get too hung up on their previous fights and their season 3s and season 2s, and I think all the new boys are going to be the ones to take. I think it's just an opportunity of who's going to take the opportunities better. So yeah, for sure. P2. Can I say my P2 before we move on? Actually, because now we're on the topic. Actually, P2. I've put Karma. So it's interesting. It's one of the names that maybe isn't talked about too much, but both me and you have it's caught our eye, which is interesting. Karma, one of the more underrated of the Division 5 boys, I think, certainly. He had a good season. He found his way, maybe not the best in qualifying, but found his way up to the front on a regular basis. Kind of dropped off at the end of the season, didn't have the best end. I think with Red Bull in the form they're in now, I don't think Red Bull, they've never been a front-running team. They've always generally been around midfield. There's a lot of talk about that team this season. I think they've got a lot of big names in there. They've got champion names in there now. With support from that team, I think we could see Karma being comfortably at the front and fighting for the win in the division. I do truly think so. And I'm excited to see. But I mean, as you said, we've gone to the point where we're talking about 4th and 5th, because that's how close this division is. But yeah, I'm back in Karma. Yeah, I think he'll do well. And yeah, it made me smile when you said 3rd for Karma, and I'd already noticed him as well. So that's quite cool. That's good. Okay, P2, what are you saying? It's the game positions in the races for me as well. Like that's someone who can navigate their way through a pack, their way on track and navigate that kind of way. So, that's that. My number 2 might be your number 1 in the sense that we've done this already.
Yeah.
My number 2.
Yeah. Okay.
My number 2 is Fanta. I think he's an interesting character. But I think he's definitely capable of winning a race. He's capable of scoring big points. I think any driver with the McLaren support network around them is going to be that they should be performing at the best of their abilities. So yeah, if anyone's going to be shining through that front, I think Fanta's going to really be that driver. So proven it already. You can see the back end of last season as well. Yeah, Fanta's my number 2.
Fair. Right, winner of the division and taking home a trophy at the end, at the finale. You are spot on. I have gone for Fanta to win Div 5. If you're looking at it from last season, he was fantastic. Again, I can talk about him similar to how I talked about Throne, up against the front runners, the big boys that were almost kind of brought that division to a new pace level that maybe it shouldn't have been at. And Fanta was there. He worked very well alongside Panda to help him win the drivers championship up against Deltic and Blake and Brownest. He'll be taking presumably more of a front running role now. I mean, looking at the drivers championship from last season, he's the highest up of those who didn't get moved up. So I imagine his eyes will be set on the championship. I think him and Throne will work well together. I think McLaren have got a really strong lineup, and it's almost like I'm talking to myself in the third person as if I haven't done that myself. But yes, I think we've got a good lineup in that division, and I think Fanta is going to be a real threat to deal with for the other teams. I'm confident. But go on, P1 for you.
I can fully see that. For me, the reason why I put Fanta P2 because of how he's going to benefit from the team aspect and stuff. I feel like it's going to happen the same thing in Ferrari. So I have put Fiver. I'm going to call him for the sake of ad revenue. Fiver. His name is as my P1. The reason a few reasons though. I know this guy back from I believe it was GSRL back in the day. Shout out that old league. He was really quick. He was just real quick back in those days. He was at one point quicker than me, I'm pretty sure. That's what my memory tells me anyway. He obviously took some time off playing the games, and now he's back. I think there's a lot of untapped potential in there, and he just needs to get more time on there with this game, a bit more support from a solid team around him. He said that his previous team wasn't really getting that kind of support that he was looking for, so he's come into a new outfit. I'm hoping to give him that kind of support, and I just feel like that. I feel like our predictions are the same, but you've underestimated Fiver's revival, shall we say, in terms of what he's going to do next season. And but our orders are the same because I put Throne people. So like our front three is the same, but I just put Fiver picking them all. I think out of all the guys who are going to break through, I think me versus you, I'm obviously going to back myself. But I feel like both Fanta and Fiver are going to be the ones fighting at the main front of the title fight because it's going to be both of them benefiting from the team support they're going to get.
I don't want to disregard a lot of the other names. I mean, obviously you talked about you talked about P4. A driver I wanted to talk about, Sisek. He's an OG. He's been in the game for a while. He's been with us for a while. He took a step out. He's come back this season. He's been doing really well. He's actually a very consistent driver. He was obviously alongside Deltic fighting for the title. Unfortunately, he was unsuccessful in winning that. And as well in the Constructors as well, but also unsuccessful in winning that. But I think Sisek is a really good driver. I think he could definitely poke his nose at certain tracks at looking up at the front. Similar with Walker, I think, as well. I mean, I don't want to gloss over him at all. He's a champion for a reason. He won it in incredible style. Yes, maybe this season wasn't the best. You can say similar thing about Throne as well, as you said. I think this season the door is open. I think it's going to be giving Walker a lot of confidence. With I think it was like 7 drivers getting moved up, the door is wide open, and I think that it could be a big booster for a driver like Walker, who who showed us what he was able to do back in season 3, winning the drivers how he did. So I'm very excited to see what they can do. Division 4. Move up. Oh no, Constructors in Div 5. What am I talking about? We've got... Right, would you like to go... I know what you're going to say, and you know what I've said, so it doesn't really matter.
I actually haven't said what you think I'm going to say. And I know you're going to be Mr. Boring, and you're going to say McLaren because you think you're incredible and you think you're going to win every division. But I've actually put Red Bull down as my Division 5 Constructors winners. And there's a reason being...
Nice, I like that.
Karma and CLP Admiral are two little dark horses. And they are dark horses in the sense of they go under the radar. They're solid drivers. They both showed last season at several points that they can score big points. They can score them consistently. They can hold on to positions. They can work their way through their pack. Like there's everything you need there to score big points. I feel like there's going to potentially be rifts in the team. I feel like Fanta and Fiverr are potentially going to be very engrossed in the battle between each other. I feel like, as I mentioned before, Throne and Walker are either going to fall back into a few of their old fights. Seasick is going to be there. I think he's going to be the disruptor. I think if Seasick had a stronger teammate, I can't actually recall who his teammate is right now, if he even has one at the moment. Zinc, yeah, okay.
Zinc.
I remember, so yes, last time I saw Zinc obviously was a few seasons ago now, but I think if Seasick had a driver similar to his level in that passenger seat, which he might do with Zinc if Zinc's found an improvement, but the Zinc I saw previously isn't going to win that, isn't going to be in that title fight respectively. I feel like unless Zinc finds loads of improvements, C6's not going to get in that Constructors fight, but if I think Red Bull are going to have the team dynamic to be that kind of team that I think almost they want to go like real life Ferrari last season, where they weren't winning the races while Verstappen and Norris crashed into each other in Austria and stuff. Like Ferrari kind of sitting behind and picking up those scraps. I think that's going to be a little bit like story in Division 5, and I feel like Red Bull might sneak that division just in there because of that reason.
No, I actually really like that prediction. I think that I've got Admiral written down as a maybe onto my top 3. I know he's friends with Ransdale, so obviously I got a bit of an insight on his ability, Ransdale being my old teammate, and I had my eye on him last season. He was a good driver. He did pick up a good amount of points in the short time he was here. I think in a full-time seat, him alongside Karma, absolutely a team that could give a shot at a Constructors Championship for sure. I have gone boring. I've been Mr. Boring. I have gone McLaren. I just can't deny my boys. I think obviously I'm going to be as interesting as I can in his predictions as Raven will as well. But I can't deny. If you look at performance from last season, Fanta and Throne, removing the boys that got moved up, are the top 2 drivers statistically from last season. Obviously, I know some of the other drivers didn't do the full season. You know, we're in lesser teams, etc., etc. But they're both very capable of winning their championships. Fanta aiding Panda in winning his drivers. Throne, of course, being in a title fight himself a couple of seasons ago. I think I've got the most accomplished lineup. Certainly prepped going into this season in winning in a Constructors. So I have back the Papaya boys. I think it's one of the strongest divisions, and I'm really, really, really happy going into the season with how they're looking. But let's not deny, let's not just gloss over Ferrari. Very strong lineup. I think Walker is, because he's a champion. We can't deny the trophies and the accomplishments he's achieved over the last few seasons. And Fiverr coming in after doing very solid in an Aston Martin with the resources he's going to get in Ferrari. I think he's going to be up there as well, very comfortably. So I don't want to gloss over that. I think Ferrari will do very well. So yeah, I think that's good. Division 4. I actually don't know what my favourite div is, but if I had to pick one, it might be this one. It's so close. It's incredibly close. It's a great division. I love Div 4 every season. Give me your top 3. Give me your third. I'm excited.
So this is the division I've been the most boring in. I'll be honest.
McLaren was mine. McLaren was my boring one, so you get this one. Okay.
So third I've gone Vaxi. I think my man's there. I think he's ready for the season. I think he's almost guaranteed to be in that title fight. The fact that I know from when he was one of the names that, because when we were deciding what the cut-off point in terms of who we were moving up, obviously me and Abby can speak of this as people who were involved with that discussion. Yeah. I know that when we were having that discussion, when we cut off that Div 4 top, I know Vaxi and another name that's probably going to get mentioned at some point in this, Liam. I know those names were mentioned a lot in that terms of that potential group to also go up. So he's right on that cusp. Anyway, he's that's a signal that he's going to be at the front of the pace of the new division. I think he's a consistent driver. I know he's fired up and ready to go. Obviously that's personal insight that I have. Maybe slight biases are coming in there, but I just think he's consistent and good enough. He's done it before as well, where he's always been at the front fight. Like, he's not someone who's proving that he can be at the front. He already has proved that. Like, it's a bit boring, it's a bit simple, but the fact he's just going to solid performances is all where I think he's going to secure a very comfortable P3, to be honest, in the end.
I don't doubt the Vaxi shout at all. Looking at last season, finishing P3 up against the three boys who were probably a bit too quick for the div, which are Pink, Spenny and Mobley Unit. They've got moved up. That opened the door for Vaxi to have a good shot at the championship. He's been solid for the last 2 seasons. I think he'll be up there. I have not gone for Vaxi for my P3 though. P3, I've gone a bit weird. We're going to go dig into the names that might have been pushed aside and only me and you would notice them. P3, I've gone for Sab. I think that he showed some real ability last season. I think he showed good consistency. I think certainly some of the tracks he was right up there at the front comfortably. And it was interesting because if you remember back in Season 3, Sab was Div 5. He was Div 5 Alpine and he got moved up. And he's one of them ones that you could argue for it. You could argue for him being Div 5. It was one of them ones that was on the edge. And Sal getting moved up into a division where you're not going to be 100% at the front, it's something on your confidence as well. It's difficult to go up to a division where everyone is as fast or faster. This season, Sab has really found comfort in it. And he's gone from maybe at the start of the season not being a straight front runner. I mean, round 1 he was showing up P8, P9, P11. By the end of the season, he was comfortably on the podium in the last few rounds, which was great to see. I think Sab is going to be a little dark horse. I think he's going to be a little golden star in Williams' lineup, and someone certainly to watch out for. So I'm going to say Sab P3.
I gotta, say that's a completely fair prediction. It's an interesting one for sure. He's he's the rate of improvement he's found. I know he was at Alpine for a while, I believe, was he not? And he had a lot of improvement there. I know that his work with Snow, he definitely helped him a lot, and he's found a lot more improvement. So, and hopefully he continues that form now. He just continues building on that. Sab's a very good shout. So moving on into my second place, I've gone for someone who I also think has maybe gone under the radar a little bit. I have gone for Mr. Destroyer Drac in my second place. I like it a lot. And it's interesting because this man was only picked up right at the end of the season. This man messaged me being like, Raven, no one wants to really sign me. Like, I can't seem to get a seat. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's I was like, I remember being like, that's surprising. It's surprising because he's a good driver. I thought he was one of the quicker ones in there. And he did manage to secure himself a seat. He's at Mercedes, I believe he signed for. It's a decent position for him. He's got now the seat to prove himself. If he turns up every week and he races and he keeps it out the barriers, keeps it out of other cars, typically sometimes the track, and sometimes he gets himself involved in an incident or two. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he could do now. I think he's very, very much one of the front runners in that division, and I think going to be a bit of an underrated driver and probably one of the front runners for Mercedes this season in terms of point scoring. I think he's going to really he's going to be a very healthy signing for Mercedes this season.
Yeah, I can say my fellow Indian brother. I absolutely agree. He came to me asking, "Is there a gap open to come into McLaren?" And I mean, I was very surprised. I think a driver of his caliber, looking at his performances last season, to see him, he came 9th last season. He was comfortably at the front in Alpine in most races. To see him waiting on the sidelines was really surprising. And he was actually, I'll give you a bit of a fun fact as the contracts man. He was the last person to get signed. Div 4 is currently completely full. He was the 20th signing. So I was very surprised. I think Fetcher's jumped onto that really well. I think that signing him for 2 seasons was smart. He's not a driver that is going to be at risk of moving up probably at the end of the season. I think he's comfortable, but he is going to be a front runner. He's going to score a good amount of Merck's points. A little disappointing maybe from his point of view because he's gone from Alpine to Merck, so a little bit of a downgrade in terms of teams performance looking in the history. Yeah, I think if he shows up every race, he's going to prove himself a lot. I think there's going to be teams knocking on the door end of the season if he's able to perform as he did last season. So yeah, I do back the track. Cool. P2, I have come back home. I've come back home to the Papaya Boys. P2, I am saying Morgan Hughes, Kua, is going to finish P2. I got a lot of... I think a lot of people were interested in what I was doing with that call because, of course, initially it was going to be Blake in the seat. Blake has so chosen to go for TP of Alpine, which I think he'll do well. He did very well in Red Bull, so I think going for Alpine is good to continue that team's growth from the past 2 seasons and their improvements. Going into that seat, and there's a lot of people that had a question mark in Division 4, and I think a lot of people were assumed to be in a McLaren seat next season based on that seat opening up. And I think less people realised that I was going to go for Kua. I see so much potential in Kua. If you look back at 2 seasons ago, season 3, he was in Division 3 in a McLaren as he filled the seat when Skiz got moved up. And he was very good, as in he was comfortably fighting with me. And he was doing it week in, week out. He's obviously moved to Sauber after the seat was filled by me, actually. Obviously, going into a small team where you've got a TP like Mill in McLaren, he's going to be driving, he's going to be putting the pressure on, he's getting you to lock in every week. And that's great, but when you move to a team like Sauber, which maybe hasn't got that kind of support and that kind of motivation, we've got physical evidence of what that happens, and Kua fell off into the background of the story. He's gone down to Division 4. I think that is a massive opportunity for him as a driver to get his name out there. I think Kua's going to be fantastic next season. If he's able to get the same motivation, the same momentum he had in Season 3, I think he's going to be terrific. I think he has a real shot at winning the Div, but I have said he's going to finish P2. I think he's going to be great. I'm really excited.
Fair enough.
Well, that's my question.
That's only time will tell on that one. Only time will tell.
It is. I think a lot of people is only time will tell. It's a lot of question marks with such a close div, but I'm excited to work alongside him.
Speaking of question marks, though, number 1, I think we have gone for the same P1, and it's a man who not only has come down a division, but has come down 2 divisions over the seasons. A man who arguably
because he sucks.
Okay, that's a slight bit of shade. But a man who arguably should have won the Division 2 title way back in Season 1. I think it was. So it is. I have gone for Mr. Squig. He's obviously not got along with this game as many. Some people have got along with this game very well. Some people, like myself, haven't. Squig has been one of those sufferers. El Squig, Moss Megan, Sanity Fools, Dylan, whatever name he goes by, whatever name he picks in the moment. I've gone for him as my leader. I think coming back, he's obviously he nearly won that Ferrari title he nearly won that Division 2 title in a Ferrari, and obviously it was another Ferrari driver who did win that one. He's since then he left the team, joined as TP, had to step down for that for his own reasons. Stayed as a driver, then flight manager system. He's come back to Ferrari now. I'm hoping that with back to where he found the success previously, he'll find it again. He'll maybe with a bit more support network, because he changed to Mercedes TP right as the game changed. So he went from having all the support and information and knowledge about the game, and had probably, if we stayed on 23, he probably would have really shone with that team as TP, because he had all that game knowledge and that game sense that we had in 23. 24 free Ulster wins, and he kind of lost that footing in his ground and himself, and he didn't have a team principal feeding it to him because he was a team principal. And I think he taking on that TP right at the game change has been one of those things that's really held him back from his own developments, his own drives, his own performances. And I'm hoping that with changing that position back for him again, where he's got that, shall we say, more figurehead person, well, I'm really hoping that kind of brings him back into his old self and he returns to his form. So I have gone for him at first, and I believe you've also gone for the same one. So
yeah, I think that's very fair. P1, I have also gone for El Squig. I think certainly in that. I mean, I was in the team when he was in Division 2, and it was. I mean, him and Casper were on another level in that division. It came down to the teammates battling against each other. And what realistically, looking at the statistics, looking at the numbers, what Dylan lost it on was just attendance. Missed a couple of races, and that, I mean, it just knocked him out of contention. Not to say that Casper wouldn't have won, but if you look at the performances and the average finishing, I mean, it kind of leans that way that I think Dylan would have won it. I think, I mean, I echo what you said. He moved off across to Mercedes when I think it was JB got moved down, and there was a shot at him getting the seat, which I believe he did. And then Dylan moved across to Mercedes, which was on a TP, which was great. But as you said, when the new game came out, it was a bit strange, this game, when it came out, and not having a team principal who's able to bring in the knowledge, because he is a team principal. I mean, he struggled with the game, and he's moved down now 2 seasons back to back, moved down the division. He has, well, exactly, his words to me actually were, "I've got a point to prove," is what he said to me. Going back into Ferrari and having another shot at the championship, I think this is his best shot he's had since season 1. You have to think, I mean, season 1 was a year and a half ago. Was it a year and a half ago? He's been holding on to this, he's been waiting for this. This is his shot, and I know he's going to be giving it 110% because he has to, because he's been sat on this for a year and a half. And as a good friend of his, he's often reminded. So I think this is the time for him to have another shot at it. So I have gone for Dylan. I think that if he's able to lock in, if he's able to keep consistent, which we know he's able to, I think he's going to do very well. So I'm going to say Dylan. Constructors.
Well, I've got two.
What have you said?
I've got 2 Ferrari drivers in my top 3. So lo and behold, I think Ferrari are going to win it. I think that Diff was just a monster division. There's not really much to say about it, to be honest. I think it's just one of our. I think I've got a really good pairing of drivers there. I think they're going to monster the division. I'm sorry to everyone else. That's just my opinion. There isn't as much as I want to be interesting. I don't want to just talk about McLaren and Ferrari the whole podcast. That's only I say. This is my boring division. I just think they're going to win it. I think it's just too strong of a pairing, consistently wise as well. I think both those drivers are just too consistent and too because even when Dylan wasn't performing, it was his pace. Like he wasn't spinning, he wasn't in crashes. He was just falling behind the pace. So if he's in a division where he's on pace, I think he's going to do well. So. Good combination. I think it's going to be quite comfortable constructors.
I mean, it's obviously clear that I'm backing my team, you're backing yours, but I have to give credit where it's due. I've gone Ferrari as well. I think you've got a great division in front of you. I think that you've got 2 drivers, one who's been in the seat for a while and now has got probably his best shot at winning a driver's versus a driver who should have won it over a year ago, and he's now got a second shot. He's been waiting on it. And he's ready to go. So I think I don't want to, obviously, there's a lot of other people that I think could have a little shot, have a little peek at it, but I think you've got a monster lineup, as you said. As we did for Division 5, and I'm gonna talk about some names that maybe we didn't talk about that I think deserve a mention. First of all, I would like to bring up Red Bull. So obviously you predicted them your Red Bull lineup for Division 5. I don't want to gloss over them for Division 4 as well. Mel showed his consistency. He actually finished 7th last season. He actually beat Sab, his teammate, who I've put in my top 3. Mel as well, I believe, was Division 5 briefly in Season 3, and he came up in Season 4. He was very regularly in the top 6. I think his consistency was really there, which just propelled him up the order. And like I said at the start of this, I think the consistency with the tracks we picked for this calendar is going to be a big help throughout the season. The other one, 5Ys, an OG name in the XRS scene. He obviously couldn't have a seat for last season due to not being able to attend the races. But when he did show up, and he didn't practice, and he just jumped into the seat, and he was there. He was there. He was still comfortably in the midfield, breaking up into I guess you could say the upper midfield, with no support, with no practice, no preparation, no nothing. This season, he is determined. I've had a chat with him because we are good friends, and he is very determined. he is ready to prove a point. I think that coming back into the scene and going for a team that isn't at the bottom, it's a team that's in the middle and trying to break to the front, reflects him as a driver in the middle, breaking up into the front. And I think it's going to be really good for his confidence. He's got a 1-season contract. And I think if he's able to put together the attributes that we know he has from previous seasons, I mean, he's fought for a championship before back in season 2, so he's not new to this feeling. I think that he'll find himself in a top seat next season. That's my prediction. I mean, Red Bull could be a top seat next season, looking at their lineups, to be honest. But I think he'll be a big name certainly for next season. For this season, I think he's just going to be a consistent name. I think he's going to be appearing maybe a couple of podiums. I think it's going to be great, so I don't want to gloss over him. So what do you think?
My only caveat on Five Wise, and I say this with love and appreciation for my friend Five Wise. He's been at all the big teams. He's been at all the big teams. He's been in the been in the seats. You know what I mean? I don't see what Red Bull are going to be able to give him that other people haven't been able to give. I just kind of think that, and yes, you said he's been in that title fight before. It's a name it's a name we talk about a lot in the word potential, and there's only so much you could talk about someone like finding their potential before you stop just wondering if it was gonna find out. I just think he's always. I think, and I this is a name I'm obviously who's just done a big move, and we're probably going to talk about him later on. But in a similar sense to how Matt kind of is always that solid midfield driver, I feel like he's almost he seems to be stuck on that same kind of destiny, and it's in his own power to break out of that. But there's a couple of drivers who always just seem to be destined to be front of midfields more than they are front of pack, like front of races, and who will occasionally score. Like there's times where, especially the last few seasons, I've looked like one of those as well. You know what I mean? Like on this game particularly, I've been one of the drivers myself. So this isn't only me saying that. This isn't even me to say this. I'm not that myself. I am definitely much on this game, and I feel like Five Wise is potentially going to be stuck in that category a little bit, stuck in those paths. We'll talk about him later on, but Matt is potentially another one of those characters like that, and myself. All of us have to try and break out of it, and I know for myself how hard that can be. So I don't know about Five Wise too much. I think he's going to need more. He's going to need something that hasn't been there before, and that I don't know if that's actually at Red Bull or any of the teams right now. To be honest, I actually don't know what that is because he spent time at Ferrari. But yeah, I think Squig and Vaxi are going to work too well together, and they're going to pull away. That's my only worry. It's because Squig and Casper in that Division 2 just work so well together, and I think it's going to be a similar situation. I know Squig's very capable of doing that. He's just good at working in a team. He knows how to position his car to benefit his teammates and stuff. So I think it's going to be a good pairing. And Vaxi's very willing to be equals with him. So I think they're two. I think the Div 4 Ferrari unit is one collective unit, not two drivers for one team. So it's just dangerous for other teams when that happens.
Another name I don't want to gloss over. We have talked about Drac as you use in the predictions. I think he'll be good. We can't gloss over a name, and I know he's going to be watching this eagerly, waiting for his name to be mentioned. Liam. He's in a McLaren, and I'm going to be working alongside him. I worked alongside him a little bit last season, despite me not being TP. I did work a little bit with him. Finished P5. After coming down from Division 3, another driver that came down from Division 3, of course he did at the start of last season, or the first few rounds of last season. He's very determined. He's ready to go. I think, and as I said at the start of this, I think it's going to be a consistency game. I think it's going to come down to who is able to make as little mistakes as possible, and I think Liam is prone to his little mistakes. He's prone to a spin. He's prone to getting caught in a lap 1 incident. And in a 12 race calendar where everyone is going to be as consistency as number one, you can't really afford too many of those little mistakes, and that might demote him outside the top 3. I think on pace, looking at his ability, absolutely could be top 3, and could challenge for the win. But he'll need to lock in. He'll need to find a new level of Liam that we haven't seen in order to do so. It's a difficult division, but I'm excited to see how he handles it. Right, we move on to Division 3. Well, I've said for the past 4 seasons, my neck of the woods, it's no longer anymore, which is kind of sad to say. But we move on to Division...
Finally, you can stop snap padding.
That's I could double the length of this podcast explaining why that is ridiculous claim, but I won't do that because that's not for the people. Division 3, P3. What do you say? If I know, you know what, I don't care what you're saying. I'm saying first because you've gone first the other time, so I'll say first this time. P3. I'm gonna say FaZe Dom. I think another one similar to Sab, bit of a golden boy maybe in Williams. I think he'll score a good amount of points. What we remember as well from Season 3 is that Dom was actually vying for the title with CGM. CGM now, of course, has taken off in Division 2, and he's doing great. He's found a big amount of improvement. Dom, I mean, you could almost say similar to Throne Globe and Walker in a sense that like they had such a great Season 3, but with the improvement to the drivers at the front last season, he almost kind of got swallowed by the pack. He wasn't really like a notable name in that div, certainly by the end. And I think this season, with, again, similar to Division 5, a lot of drivers going up, a lot of drivers being moved, he is one of the main names. He finished 7th last season after finishing, I think, 2nd in the season before. I think he's definitely someone to watch out for. And I think just because he's not in maybe the biggest team, I think Williams are going to be making some progression this season. I think they will improve. But maybe now they're not the biggest team. That doesn't mean we can just set them aside. I think Dom is going to be a good point scorer for them. So I'm going to say Dom P3. What about you?
Completely agree. I completely agree with everything you said there. I'm going to circle back to what you said there at the very end of this division. So okay. I'm going to leave most of my comments till then. But yes, that was very astute. My third place is a bit of an interesting one. I've gone for Pink. I think a man who's very quick. He's been capable of setting div 2 times. I think he's going to come into this new division on Fridays really, really comfortably. He's going to be the next you, I think, in terms of just stat padding for a bit. I think he's going to be there longer than he probably should be, but he's going to do quite well in that division. I think he's going to probably find his own quite early. He's obviously now got the confidence behind him of winning that title. He knows how to win races. Like he's stayed in the team for more than a season as well, which I think is quite rare for him as well. So he's obviously on a longer term project in terms of, and he's interesting. He's obviously comfortable at McLaren right now. He's enjoying the dynamic and the environment. He's got review. He accredits so much of his previous season successes to working with you. So I feel like he's going to find his old feet again. He's going to not his old feet. He's going to find the feet he had in his most recent form, and he's going to continue his performance rate. However, it transitions me very nicely into my second place, which is Spenny. And I think Spenny's going to get.
I like that a lot.
I think Spenny's going to get the better of Pink this season. I think Spenny was Pink's biggest threat last season. I think Pink was able to keep him at arm's length with having the few races earlier in the season. I think both of them starting on 0. I think Spenny maybe will start stronger, and that's going to put Pink in the role of catch up. And I don't think Pink's going to like that as much as he liked having the job of just keeping him at arm's bay. I think, okay. And I think Spenny. I think that fight that happened last season between Pink and Spenny. I think Spenny wins this one and comes second.
That's very fair. I think I like that a lot. I think certainly from Pink, I agree with what you mean. I think he's learnt more from this season in winning Div 4 than he has in any season he's had before. Because it's been a complete the table has been completely flipped. He's often at the front or upper midfield. Last season he was just like the front runner. He was just the best driver. So I think he's learnt a lot from that season. Coming across to Division 3, the competition is fierce. The competition is very close. And I think he's going to bring a lot of what he learned into his now current performances. But yeah, Spenny had a lot of really good performances last season. He was certainly at some tracks the better driver. I think him and Wobbly Unit, who was the other one who's been signed for Mercedes, it's a similar thing. I think Wobbly Unit. He's actually done the same as Destroyer Track. He's gone from Alpine to Mercedes. Sorry, a bit of a downgrade of a team. which kind of sucks. But I think if wobbly unit can stay consistent as what he had, the performances he put in last season, I think will be good. Spenny, I think, is probably the best of the three in terms of in just outright pace. So yeah, if you can home in that, I think Spenny will do very well. For my P2, I have not put Pink or Spenny or wobbly unit. I've gone for a different driver. I have gone for McLaren's finest. It is Millard. I put Millard in second place. He is a driver.
You're putting Matt to win the title. You're putting Matt to win the title. I know you're
I'm talking about Mill here. I'm trying to discuss my opinions on Mill here, and people. I'm getting.
Oh dear. Yeah, because you're talking about him too early. What is this? You're talking about him far too early. Second.
P2. Am I not doing second? Or I've done my third. Second now.
Yeah. You're talking about him too early. You should be talking about him.
Second place.
P1. You should be talking about for Mill.
Second place, runner-up, is Millard. I think Millard has a lot to prove. I think moving across from McLaren to Ferrari, I think he's had unnecessary backlash from the face of McLaren and yourself being the face of Ferrari. Certainly in the past, since it started, really, since KRL and the early seasons. I think that him moving across, he's gone from a very much of a management role, and of course he raced back in season 1 for McLaren, and looked like he probably would have won the drivers if he'd not got moved up, and of course he ended up not completing that season, and I won it. But I think Mill has a lot to prove now. He's going to have a full season. He's got a very good team behind him. And yes, they happen to be the rivals, of course, but I think it's going to give him a real good shot at fighting for a championship. A very accomplished driver. He has managed a lot of other people to win their drivers, which means his knowledge of the game is going to be good. His knowledge of how to race, which is very important, is going to be very good. And of course, there's not removed the biggest fact, which is the fact that he's been moved down a division. So he's now in an easier division. He's now in a division that he is, as from predictions, he's going to be at the front of. He's probably the favourite to win. I think he probably is the favourite to win the championship, which maybe is a bit of pressure put on him. But I think if anyone is going to be able to handle that pressure, I think it's certainly going to be Mill. His mentality is going to drive him forward. And what I said to him, actually, I said this to him because we're good friends. And I said this to him before the season, before he'd signed for anyone, before any of the window, even before the window was open. And I was talking to Mill, and I said, I think if we'd kept you in Div 2, or even if we'd put you in Div 1, his need to be the best, his need to drive himself, if he'd done a full season, I think he would have found himself at the front by the end of it. Even if we kept him in Div 2, I think his drive and he hates not being at the front. He hates not being the best. And I love that about him. I think it's a similar mentality that you have. I think it's a similar thing that I have as well, because I don't like coming second, I don't like losing. And I think if you kept him in Div 2, I think he would have forced himself to be at the front. I think Division 3 is perfect for him, because off the back of last season, his performances weren't amazing. They weren't awful, they weren't amazing. Another driver who's this game maybe hasn't worked out for, similar to Dylan. And I think moving down, he's going to drive himself, he's going to push himself, make sure he's at the front, make sure he's giving 100% where he needs to. I think Mill's going to, excuse me, I think rightfully so, Mill is the favourite to win the title, but I have put him second. So there we go. I mean, do you want to say your P1 since it's on topic?
No, you get on with it. Get on with it. Go on.
P1, my boy, and you know what? And I'm not going to say too much. A man that I've wanted to work with for a long time, and I'll give you a little bit of a storyline, right? So, when I joined KRL, the original league, this is over 2 years ago now. When I joined, there was 3 paths. I was given 3 offers to join their team. There was Raven in Ferrari, there was Matt in VCARB, and then there was McLaren, and they offered me a seat as well. Raven and Ferrari were this big team, and they were the team that was going to be this big thing, and you were building this incredible lineup. VCARB, or obviously AlphaTauri at the time, they were kind of the bad boys. They were the ones that always get in trouble. They were kind of like the on-edge team. I think you can remember. I think all you OGs can remember what old school AlphaTauri was like. And then there was McLaren, which was this small team. They hadn't accomplished anything at the time. They hadn't won any trophies, anything. and I opted for them. And I had an opportunity to work with you. I had an opportunity to work with Matt, and I said no. And we've waited so long. And when I moved to Ferrari for XRS, I got that opportunity to work with you. And I still hadn't got that opportunity to work with Matt. And through all these seasons, I think it's 8 seasons in total, obviously from the old league and then the 4 from here, Matt has finally come out of his team in VCARB or AlphaTauri, and he's joined McLaren. And it wasn't even like a signing that I was contemplating it being a risk. Because bringing him in and finally him getting 100% support, maybe he would have had support from VCARB, maybe he would have had support from the top drivers, but the amount of time that I intend to be putting into these divisions, especially 3, 4, and 5, because I'm a Division 2 driver, so the division's lower than me, the amount of time I'm going to put in for them, making sure they're improving, and the mentality that my Division 3 lineup has come into, Pink as well, let's not exclude him, I've been so impressed. They are so on it. They are so ready to perform. And certainly Matt as well. He's on the practice already day one. And I expected there to be an improvement because he is finally getting this support for him. It's all about him. It's not about him being a TP and signing good drivers. It's all about him. My intention is to help him win to the best he can. And he's been on it. He is looking in incredible form. I cannot wait to work with him. Matt's going to win this div. He's actually going to do it. And I'm so excited to watch it happen. Matt's won it. He's won it already. I cannot wait. That is my prediction. Raven West.
I love the way...
I can't see you, but I can imagine your heads in your hands. I just can't believe this happened.
I like the way you said, I'll not say too much. And then proceeded to say... Oh wow!
Whatever.
It's an interesting take. It's an interesting take.
Yeah.
I will pitch back to you. I won't even touch it. Right? I won't even touch it.
Okay.
I think Matt's a good driver. I think he is what he is. I don't think he's that killer. I don't think he's the same kind of. Do you know what it is? All the reasons you said about Matt going from team principal to driver only and going from the supplier to the receiver of like the information and the resources and stuff, that's happening the same with who I put first, which is Millard.
Yeah.
And the only difference between the two drivers is that the last time we saw Mill in a full-time seat, he was monstering his division. And we all know that Mill's capable. And like, Mill has historically been quicker than Matt. This would be Matt's first time being the quicker of the two. Obviously, all power to Matt if he's able to do that. He's able to find himself. And the whole thing, this whole time for Matt was he just needed a bit more team and a bit more support network around him. If that's the case, then fair play. Everyone he's found his footing, and I'm very happy for him. But to be honest, out of the two drivers who've been such strong figureheads in their team as team principals, the two drivers go from those roles to just a driver role with big teams behind them. I just see Mill edging that. I'm going to back myself and my unit and my system over yourself and your units and your systems. I feel like not only is do I just back myself against anyone anyway, even when I was losing, I back myself. I feel like I've got the experience on you anyway as well for this coming season. But
that's true.
But yes, I feel like what Mill brings in, Mill's coming in as a 2-time OCC winner. Matt's coming in as a 9-time 4th place OCC scorer. So it's it's just different. There's different mentalities there. Mill's more of a winner for me between the two. And none of this is to disrespect Matt. None of this is just is intended to disrespect Matt at all. He may take some of it as some, but this is just purely. I think Mill's just too much of a natural winner. As you said, that the thing that you've got, the thing that I've got. I just don't see it to the same strength in Matt, and I just don't. I can't imagine Mill sleeping at night with Matt ahead of him in the championship. So, I can't. For me, it's. I understand why, but it has to be Mill. It just has to be Mill the favourite to win this title. Has to be.
He is, yeah, and I mean I do agree with you to an extent. I think Mill absolutely is the more accomplished driver. The last time we saw these two head-to-head in XRS, Mill was the better driver. That was a long time ago, I think it's fair to say, but you are right, Mill was the better driver. But I think Matt he is the dark horse, because I actually don't think that people are looking at him as the man to win it. Mill is such a big name in this scene. He's such a big name, especially coming into Ferrari as well, to win this, to win everything. And I think Matt, he's almost a dark horse in one of the biggest teams, and I'm really excited to see what he can accomplish. Move on to constructors. I want to get mine out of the way first of all, because we're on the train of what I'm on about. I have put McLaren, and it might be boring, but I am incredibly content with this call. I think that Pink off the back of a championship, and yeah, fair enough. People can say it was a bit of a championship that didn't really go to the wire. It never really had that pressure point. If you want to look in specifics, I suppose Spenny was catching at one point. Me and Pink worked on his assists, and he found that traction. No pun intended, because he turned off traction, but he found the groove he needed to get the championship back on the rails, and he won it comfortably. There is that case. It's still a championship. He's still got the experience flying at the front, which he hasn't had really in XRS before, not consistently, or not certainly as consistently as he did last season. He's coming into a new division with faces he's familiar with for the most part. I think he's bringing in a lot of momentum. And Matt, like I said, I just echo what I said previously. His mentality and his determination has surprised me, and I was very content in bringing him in. Like before I was even announced as TP, in my head I was thinking, if I'm going to be TP, that's the man I want. Looking at I said the same about Fanta and Throne Globe, the drivers that got moved up. If you remove them out of the championship, Matt had the most points last season. Obviously, you're not going to include Mill in that because he wasn't in the division, but looking at what we know about the other drivers in the division, he was the best last season. I think both of them are going to work really well together. They've been teammates before in VCARB. The last time we saw teammates work together, Pink has been was teammates with MCL twice, and they worked very well together. The first time they won a Constructors Championship, the second time was for a shorter time, but they worked well together even then. So I think it's a match made in heaven. Match made in heaven, I should say. I'm saying Constructors McLaren. What about you? Yeah.
I've also gone Constructors McLaren, but I have a caveat on it.
Okay.
If Gone to the Moon was able to race, I would put it as Williams.
Interesting you've said that, because I was thinking the same thing. If Gone to the Moon, the last time he raced, I believe, was season 2, might have been season 3. He was good. Mm-hmm. Like he was in Division 3 at the time and got moved up. He was comfortably upper midfield to front of Div 2. It was a difficult season as well. Difficult names in there. We had Skiz, we had myself and Malachi, probably the best Malachi we've seen in a while as well. And he was at the front. So I don't know if I would have put them first, but I definitely would have looked at Williams and said, yeah, maybe. I can agree with you there. The other team I want to look at, actually, Alpine. Kalik, first of all, a very accomplished driver, very good driver. He helped More Leader to not win the Drivers' Championship. Yeah, boys! But he was up there and nearly won the Constructors. And he's obviously, he knows what he's doing. Kian as well. If you remember, the last time Kian raced properly, it wasn't even was XRS. So it was so long ago. But when he was in this division, it was a similar division to this. It was Tier 3. And he was good. He was right at the front. He was putting pressure on what I would consider as prime Dodo. He was putting pressure on, I think it was Dylan back then when he was in that division. And myself as well, I was there as well. If Kian can find that form, I'll be honest, I think Alpine take it. I actually do believe, because I think Kian would I think he'd do really well in this div. He might even have a shot at the drivers. But the problem is we haven't seen that kid in it's nearly a year and a half. Over a year and a half, yeah. So maybe.
From the circle, from what I've heard about PE people who are in the inner circle of Kian, he's been racing in other leagues, and it's that same pace isn't there. That's what I've heard. That isn't my opinion. That's just what I've heard. Otherwise, yes, Alpine would be the favourites, because Kalik was one of the people. We mentioned Baxi being one of the people who were in the conversation for being like where that boundary is. Kalik was also in there as well. He's was very quick, big factor. A big factor in the Constructors fight last season with Alpine and stuff. And of course the more leaders drivers title as well. Definitely would have been a big one. I just don't see Keane as being that second driver in a division like that one in there. I think Pink and Matt, for all the reasons you said, are gonna be able to score enough points. I think I believe that Dodo is going to be a good enough teammate to support Mill to win the Constructors as well. But just based on previous last results seasons being being more objective and not being the Ferrari TP, based on last season's results, Dodo isn't performing as well. We saw those glimmers with Brazil and with Vegas, I believe was his other really good results was right at the back of the season.
Saudi.
Saudi. Yeah, so it's there's a lot to come from Dodo. I think he's finding his feet, he's finding his rhythm, but based on this last season's results as a whole, it's not there yet. So that's for him to prove. But yeah, no, McLaren are the favourites, and I would honestly put Williams as the favourites if Moon could race full time, because I think those two would just be consistent enough and not getting in each other's way, which Pink and Matt might do by the end of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to gloss too quickly over Dodo, because we have seen him be a very, very comfortable front runner. Maybe not in this game, so he might be another one, another Mill story, another Dylan story where this game just hasn't worked out for him. But yeah, as you said, at the end of last season, he was finding his feet. He was finding a bit of consistency. Terrific race in Brazil, first of all, and then in Saudi he did enough to stay with the pack, stay consistent, and he was up there with me and Ransdale and Kalik right at the front. So if we see more of that Dodo, then I think I wouldn't say we can easily write off Ferraris for Constructors winner either. Not at all.
That's what I like to believe, but certainly not what the likelihood is just based on recent results is. But that's what I'm aiming towards. I'm working towards is that becoming a reality. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, Division 2.
My home.
Probably, yes. Yeah, your division. Probably the closest. I mean, it's stupid close. It's like there's actually a chance that our top three just aren't the same at all. You know what I mean? Like, that actually might not. Yeah. We might be talking about 6 different drivers here. I'm very interested to see who you've put. Do you want to go first or me?
You go first. Go on.
P3, I have put our drivers champion. I've put Skiz. I think Skiz is off the back of a fantastic season. I mean, he really found comfort in the car. He found a level of consistency that the other drivers couldn't quite keep up with, and it was a good div. We had both Alpine boys. We had himself and TGM, and of course we had the Ferrari boys as well. Yourself. He was working at an incredible level. He would show up and be always at the front. I think he'll do a similar thing. The issue is, and it's not like I think he'll do worse. Obviously, third is worse than first, but I just think the division is so close that even the minor mistakes are going to mean so much. Just an off-brand P10 in a mixture of top sixes might be the changing factor in this division, and what wins and loses. I think Skiz will do fantastically. And by no means do I think finishing third is a disappointment. Maybe he might see it as such. But I think the champ will return. I think he'll be P3, and I think he'll do very well. So I'm going to say Skiz. What about you?
Interesting. I've actually gone for maybe a name that I don't think is going to be in your top 3, and I don't think it's going to be on many people's top 3s. I've actually gone for Ramsdale.
Yes! Go on, boys! Let's go! I'm so happy you said that.
I think he's got the capability to break that top 3, I can't lie. I just think he's a solid, good driver. Like, I think he fell into a second driver role last season, probably because he had the big loud mouth in the garage beside him. But I think he definitely has the capability to lead a team, and with his he's going to need to. But I also think he's going to have a fantastic teammate backing him up there. We saw what Mafia could do for the Bird, for example. I think Ransdale's going to really find himself in a good team dynamic. I think he's coming into a team like Alpine with a bit more weight behind his name now. I just think he's going to be like he's going to be a dark horse. I think he's the dark horse of Div 2. I really do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I know on Mansdale. I'll be honest, I haven't got him in my top 3 because I know I'm a good friend of Mansdale. I know he is he's in the process of moving house and he might be missing races. Had he been able to show up for all of them, and I hope he's able to, and he's working at 100%. I mean, we saw how quick he was last season. He had the most positive 3, and a lot of them would have been him comfortably top 3 of Div 2. I think if he's able to work at the same, and I know he will. I know how driven he is, and he's told me in calls and in VCs, he's very driven for next season. He's ready to go. And if he's able to work at the same output he was last season, I think he's going to find himself at the front more than a few times. I really hope he's top 3. I haven't put him down purely for the reasons that I think he might miss a few races, but he is you're spot on. He is the dark horse that Div. I don't think people have got their eyes on him, and I'm looking forward to what he can do. I really am. So yes, fair enough. Right, P2. P2, I've gone for a name that I think a man that proved himself. Not the biggest name in the league because he's not really too vocal in the chats, but he spoke up even louder with his performances, I think, certainly last season. Re-signing for Red Bull, I've gone for Brian Evans. I think he's a great driver. I think he was there consistently last season. I think he showed his performances, showed his pace. I think Brian Evans will... there's not much more to say, to be honest. I mean, he's got 2-season contract here with Red Bull. Another lineup that's going to be lethally quick. I mean, he's up beside CGM, Div 3 champion, who really found his footing in Div 2 by the end, and was turned into one of the best drivers on the grid, actually, by the end of the season. But I think Brian Evans will take that role. I think he'll get a good shot at the championship. CGM he's played the teammate role in terms of championships alongside Skiers. He's also been the main man back in Div 3. I think they're going to bounce off each other really well, and I think that's going to be a crazily quick Div or teammate pairing. But I've gone for Brian Evans P2. What about you?
Fair enough. So understandable why you do that. The only reason why he's not broken into my top 3 is because I look at some of the drivers who maybe weren't pushing as much towards the end of the season, and with that in mind, that's why my P2's gone to Skiz. I think last season's champion, no reason why he's not going to be performing again. I don't know if he's going to have the same fire to win a second as to win the first. I know that he put extra eggs into the basket this season to go for the title, and I don't know if he's necessarily going to be going for that same level of commitment again. I know he's going to be driven. I know he's going to be working hard. I know you're going to be getting him motivated. I know you want him firing on all cylinders, so you're going to be also pushing for your own sake. But I think Skiz is going to be there just no matter what. I think he's obviously a talented driver. He won the Division 2 last season quite early as well. There's not much to say about him. He's a champion for a reason, and he's going to be my number 2.
Okay, fair enough. P1. Who have you put?
I put my boy.
What do you want me to go?
I put my boy Casper.
Fair enough.
The speedy Swede. I think now. So one thing to consider. All last season, Bird and Skiz, who were the other 2 main title protagonists, and I think Brian Evans is as well, were all PC users. And there is a slight advantage on PC. It is slightly quicker the way you can take curbs and stuff like that. That playing field has been levelled in a lot of senses with me and Casper both moving over to PC. I think Casper, who was already lightning quick and fighting the Bird and Skiz, I think with the little bit of extra advantage he's now going to have from the PC, I think with just the hard work he's going to put into this season ahead of him, I think between Casper and Skiz, who's more motivated to win a second one, I think Casper is more motivated because I think it's also been longer since he's won one. So I think it's been longer since he's 8, so he's hungrier. Kind of way with him. So I think Casper's going to edge out Skiz this season, with Skiz falling just behind of Casper. And I think the fact that Casper's on the PC now as well is just going to help him out with a couple of things as well, and just take pressure off his streaming and stuff, and his his Wi-Fi is going to be a wee bit easier to handle and stuff. So yeah, I can foresee him having a very fruitful season. I work alongside him very much. I work alongside him for the last few seasons. He's the co-TP at Ferrari. I know how much he can give, how much he can offer, how much he brings. I know how much he races. I know how much he drives and how much he practices. I mean, and there is a slight aspect of I'm looking at it from inside the team, but like I said, you can see the talent in all the drivers, and when it is so close, I'm more likely to be swayed by something that I can see more insight on, and that's just Casper's workload, his pace improvements, the way he's going. Yeah, so my chips are on him for next season.
Fair enough. P1, I was very, very tempted to say Casper. I think he's a driver who cannot be understated. He's been consistently the face of the front in Division 2, of course winning the championship in Season 1, and being not able to take a second, but has been at the front ever since. P1, I've actually gone for Mafio, a driver that maybe hasn't been noticed as much. He, as you said, I mean, it was Skiz, Bird and Casper who were the main title fighters with yourself not too far behind at all. Mafio actually ended up finishing second. He actually beat the Bird, and I don't think people noticed that by the end. He jumped 2 positions in the final round. Mafio started the season wobbly. By the end, he was consistently top 3. As in almost every single round, he was on the podium. And it's not even like he was playing a teammate game at that point. He was in it almost to win it himself. I think Mafio, now with a clean sheet, on the performance off the back of last season, when he's already bringing so much momentum, it wasn't like you said about the Skiz, where it's almost like he won the championship or had a gap and then just kind of sat back and kind of did it in cruise control. Mafio was on the drive until the final day. And if he's able to continue that into the new season, I think he's certainly one of the quickest to do it. And I think he will start the season strong. And it might even be a situation almost like Skiers, where he starts and builds that gap, gets everyone within outside of an arm's length, and then trips back. But it's an incredibly close division. It's difficult to say, but I've gone for Mafia to win. So yeah.
Well, that segues nicely into my division constructors winner, because I've gone for Alpine. For the reasons you said with Ransdale, with the reasons we said with Mafio. I think Alpine actually have just an incredible lineup. Of course, I think me and Casper are going to do enough to win the constructors. I think the Skiz and the Bird are a very dangerous lineup. When you talk about who the people were in the title fight last season, they were 2 of the biggest names. I'm looking at. I think the Bird is capable of a mistake too often in a division as close as this, and I think Ransdale and Mafio are just so solid as a pairing. I don't know. I think Mafio's a slight risk of getting an instance as well. Like, he had a wobbly start to the season. I could see that happening again. But there's I definitely don't see that Alpine team struggling in any aspects of the season, and I can see them going all the way, to be honest.
Good, I like that. I like a little a dark horse division winner. I must say before you go on, I was almost tempted to say Red Bull as well. CGM and Brian Evans is a very interesting pairing. It's a very interesting pairing. They're both CGM. Brian Evans coming in, and they said he's that quieter character, so you don't really get that much. He's not that as prolific in the server as a personality, but he's been quick from the start, and then CGM has just been improving season on season. I think they're a dark horse team. Are Red Bull? I think Alpine are going to impose themselves quite early. But I think there's honestly about 4 or 5. I think that's going to be the closest fight in both drivers and in constructors. I think it's a mental fight. Yeah. I'm slightly not reluctant, but I'm aware that that's probably the hardest fight to win for any of the people in there. That's obviously with the perspective of it's as hard for everyone to win their own divisions because that's just the pace they're at. I think there's the most people at that top pace bracket in Division 2. If you think of the front runners, there's the most amount of front runners in Div 2. So it's going to be the hardest to separate yourself in that pack. And I'm in there. But yeah, there's about 4 or 5 teams in there all capable of being the winners. You know what I mean? So it's crazy division. Yeah, I think that's very fair. That segues on to my point. I've put Constructors winner as Red Bull. I think, obviously, I've said my piece about Brian Evans. CGM, he was in Division 3. He wasn't really... If you look back into Season 1, he was a driver that was a little bit unsafe. He was a driver that would find himself at the front, but not consistently. And he'd get himself in maybe too many incidents. Since then, he's just improved. He won the Drivers' Championship in Season 3. Moved up in Season 4 last season. And he started off in Haas, actually, finding his feet. The performances began to come in. Then got signed by McLaren mid-season after the gap opened up with Cintium going up. And he did fantastically. I mean, by the end of the season, he had crowned himself one of the better Div 2s in terms of performances. He was doing a fantastic job. And ended up winning a race, I believe. I think it was Vegas, but I can't remember. He was doing a great work. I think Div 2 Red Bull will be a really, really good lineup. But we can't look away from... I mean, it's difficult because we're going to end up talking about the entire lineup. We've got VCarb. So we've got JB, who often found himself up at the front. He snuck himself up at the front. I think people missed that. Teaming with Sallow, who is a former Div 1. So moving down a division, he's already got that pace. So we can't take that away. Mercedes. So Jojo had a terrific Season 3. He was teammates with Matteo Manga, who won the Drivers, and they ended up winning the Constructors. He's over to Mercedes now with FG Callum, who I've discussed and I've talked to, and he seems very content in locking in this season. When he showed up and when he was bringing 100%, he was one of the quickest on every single day he was there. I think he was able to bring that consistency, show and have a higher attendance. I think Mercedes have a great shot in winning their first trophy in that division. I think they've got a really, really strong lineup. And the other one I want to talk about is Neb. Neb, he was challenging for Div 1 Drivers' Championship only a few seasons ago. And obviously with wheel issues and with other technical issues, he has dropped off the back. If he can get his wheels sorted out, do you think he can be up there, Raven West? Because I think he can.
I don't know. For me, I've raced a lot with Neb, and my experience of him recently has been he always has a near-death experience every race. Like there's always a Code Brown moment at some point in a Neb restroom race. And it's there's I don't know if he's ironed those creases out. I did a race with him recently, and I felt very similar on pace with him, having like only been aware I was doing the race about 20 minutes before it started. I don't know. I think the strength that's in that division, he's going to. I'm not struggling. Definitely not struggling. He's gonna be another one of those big. That's the thing with this division. Like Division 2 is crazy. Like the fact that Neb's not in either of our top threes is crazy. You know what I mean? Because he's another one of those former Div 1s. Fallow as well, one of the former Div 1s. Like all the people we've talked about, we're on the back of last season Div 2. We haven't even talked about the people who've come down from Division 1. We haven't even talked about some people who've improved. Like JB's smashing it in another title fight he's in right now in a league EXA with me, and me and him are in the same division, and he's second in that championship and I'm third. There's a lot of names in there that could do incredible things. So it's almost the hardest one to predict. It really is, and it's gonna be such a fight. And it's whoever wins that title fight in the end is gonna probably be one of the most deserving champions in XRS history, because it's gonna be such a war. That division's just war. It's just gonna be a crazy war in there. It's a war zone, and I'm not looking forward to getting involved in it, but I also am. There's the two sides of me are that I know it's going to be one of the hardest challenges of my league racing career, but also I'm looking forward to the challenge and there's going to be just some big names in there, and it should just be like every position is going to be hard fought for, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. We move up to the top boys, the division that has a lot of question marks, because we've had appearances from drivers who could wipe the floor of our regulars. The question is, who will stay? Division 1.
So I will do Division 1. I'm going to do Division 1 slightly differently, right? I'm going to rattle my 3 off, but there's a caveat on the free, right? If all the people currently in their seats, no, the reason this caveat's been put in place is because I'm aware that a lot of these current Div 1s are people who have big commitments elsewhere. So they're all in esports teams. They're in esports leagues like PSGL and stuff. So I know they have commitments elsewhere in other places. So there's a small question mark over the people who've come in more recently, who are that upper echelon, shall we say, of drivers, whether they're going to be able to race full time. Some of them have signed full time contracts. Some of them are still just reserves. But I have a top three of current signed drivers and a top three with the assumption that every single driver is going to be racing every single race. But then if none of these, if it's not the case, and it's that all the people who are these upper kind of quality drivers. I don't say upper quality because that sounds like to say that and then talk about drivers like Tashubi and Elias and Rev Rob and all these kind of people, you know what I mean, and Sleek. To say that these people are not the high quality drivers is crazy. It just shows you the level of drivers we've had coming in recently. But if all drivers currently signed race all the races, I think Cameron Dowd's P3. I think Danny in P2, and I think Leo in P1. But if they don't race and they only race partially, then Tashubi's going to win it again because it's Tashubi. So that's my Div 1 prediction. So it's purely based on attendance to me.
Fair. I've taken a different approach to you, and I've tried to kind of like incorporate the assumption that the regulars will show up, but the new boys, these esport boys, might not. So I'll rattle through them as well. P3, I've said Jay Snowy. That is reflecting of a regular. So he's a driver that's finished second in the last 2 championships, and he's a driver who we know is going to show up every race. We know is going to be if the regulars are there, he'll be at the front. And if the non-regulars show up, he'll be consistently in the middle. He's not a driver who really makes mistakes. He's always there. And he is one of the quickest pad drivers the league XRS has seen. Div 2, I've said Leo Lund in VCARB. Here's me incorporating the non-regulars coming in. I've talked to Leo. Seems like a lovely lad. I think he has got commitments with VCARB. They've scouted him out personally. I believe Lasserdon has. And he is incredibly quick. Like I think is the quickest driver in the league in terms of like just pace, in terms of raw pace. But we never know until we beat the track. So I've kind of incorporated that like he might not show up for all races, but the races he does show up to, he'll be scoring big. He'll be in the 25s, 21s, 18 points regularly. And I put him second. P1, we cannot deny him. He is truly the greatest of all time. He's going to be a 3-time champ. Doesn't matter what team he's in. Doesn't matter if it's Papaya or Scuderia Ferrari. Tashubi will win. He's everyone's champion, really. So he is the people's champion, and he will become the first 3-time champion. And I'm looking forward to seeing him win it.
So like I said, if those esports drivers are temperamental with their attendance, then Tashubi's going to be here every week, and I think he's the fastest regular. You know, so that definitely is going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah. Constructors, hit me.
So Constructors, I've gone more for with consideration for attendance, and I've just gone Ferrari. I think Elias is going to miss the first 2 races because of exam commitments, and then he's locking in for the final 10. And yeah, he's rapid. He's really quick. He's as quick as Tashubi. I remember back when he had to leave obviously last season. Due to personal commitments, personal issues, he had to step down just because of issues in his personal life. He's told me he's back to race now. He's told me he's back to make up for having to drop that last season, and he's going to be on fire. Tashubi, as we've already talked about, is going to be an absolute monster. He's always up there. I remember back when he was obviously Tashubi and Elias were title rivals early of last season. They were going 100th for 100th in time trial on pace, so their pace is so similar. They are in that cream of the crop, and I think they're both going to be committed. I think, like I said, 2 races missed for Elias, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if Tashubi's at all 12. So I'm very, very much looking forward to both working with them and just seeing what they can do together as a unit. And I just think I can't look past both of them to win the Constructors title there. So
I have absolutely agreed with you. I put Constructors winning Ferrari as well. Tashubi, he needs no description. He needs no no CV. He needs no chat with us on the podcast about why he's going to win it and why he's one of the greatest. He has 2 championships to back it up. And I think even the fact is that even without the regulars, even with the quickest boys that have come in, we look at the last few races of the last season, he's still there. He's still keeping up. He's still flying alongside them. And he's still staying as consistently as he is. So it's even on the worst case scenario for him, which is the Leo Lunds of the world and the Cameron Dowes of the world stick around and they do show up to all 12. Tetsubi's going to give it his all anyway. He's going to be there anyway, which I think is an incredible trait to have. That even the worst scenario, he's going to be there. Elias, I mean, it's more of a question mark for me because I haven't got the background check that you have, since he's not on my team. But if he's just as quick, then there we go. I think all he needs to be is... I mean, he almost all needs to be is consistent, to be honest, because Tetsubi will be scoring points constantly. If Elias is as quick, then there we go. I can't deny the caliber of lineup that Ferrari have put together there. So I have put Ferrari as well to win the Constructors. This is where it gets quite juicy, Raven West, and this is personally my favourite part of this predictions. It's the OCC, and what makes this different about the predictions we've just done is that we don't just do top 3, we don't just do P1, we don't just do no, we do the whole thing. The big difference here is that we're talking about the bottom of the pack. We have to be a bit critical because we're talking about the bottom. It's not just about the top. So I've got my list in front of me. Presumably you have as well.
Yes.
Would you like to tell me your P10? I have a feeling it's the same team I've put, but we'll find out.
Before we even engage in any of this, right? I just want to say, let's just get it out the way now. Let's address the elephant in the room. You put McLaren to win the OCC, I put Ferrari to win the OCC, and neither of us are going to back down, and both of us are biased, and both of us are down here, and we're going to argue over every other position, but we're never going to budge over those 2. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's just get out the way. Okay, perfect. P10. I've gone for Sauber.
I think.
I unfortunately think that Sauber are. They're just looking like the team that are still trying to find out the formula they're going to use for this season, and I feel like they. Almost similar to draw comparisons to real life testing right now. The way that Red Bull were using the flow viz in the final day of testing, there's that same kind of worrying, uneasy, uncertain energy coming from Sauber right now. I think Miles is trying to get Miles of TP is trying to get them in the right direction, but I think he's struggling for a little bit of that inspiration of where that actually direction is going to go. What that looks like. What does the next step for Sauber look like? What does the next a generation of talent look like? This is a team that finished second in an OCC back in season 1, and for them to return that, they're going to need to invest in right kind of driving moves. And I think that it's not that they're maybe because there's still so many spaces open in Sauber, and that's another big situation for me is they're not making the moves. Are they not making the moves because they're holding out to try and get the better spots? Are they going to try and... is their strategy to, okay, we'll sacrifice some points early on, which will take us out of maybe a top 4, top 5 conversation from round 1, but we can secure some stronger drivers in the later season to then guarantee we're maybe 8, 7, 6. Could that be their strategy? That I could see that working as a strategy, but right now there seems to be the most question marks over Sauber. There seems to be the most unknowns, and there seem to be the most things unanswered, and I think unfortunately it's a slight lack of inspiration from the team principal in that aspect, which is it's a shame to see, but I also have full backing that Miles is going to find that recipe eventually, and he's going to turn that team around, and they're going to be the next team to go from the bottom to the top, like we've seen teams like Alpine do. So we know it's possible, more than easy to be done. I just think right now they're the team looking for the most answers still at this late in the season as well. This at time of recording, you gotta remember time recording. We are going racing in 6 days. So
yep.
So yeah, we're 5 now because it's a bit of insight. We're recording this at midnight because neither of us are able to organise our lives properly. Yes, but this time might be more my fault, but that's beside the point. Yeah, I just think Cerberus are looking for the most answers. It's too late for them to do anything for round 1 with major impact, so I think they're looking at maybe once we get early season moves out the way, they have to act then. If they don't, then they're destined for 10th. But they have one last opportunity, I think, which is when those early season div moves happen, if any happen, which is another question mark for them. But again, that's what I mean when I say there's so many unknown variables in there that they're relying on, and that's why they're in the weakest position right now going into round 1. I think they're favourites for 10th.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. I have put Sauber 10th as well. I think obviously we've seen over the last we've seen different strategies taken by different TPs to accomplish where they want to end up. We've seen teams like Haas under Asteroids management kind of snipe at the best drivers in the division and aim at the boys that are going to be the quickest, and they shouldn't up and won their OCC. We've seen the strategies used by yourself in more of a development style. A lot of drivers in Ferrari, they don't just go in and out. They are in there for a long time. They're often in there for 2, 3, 4 seasons. You can see drivers like, Casper and Walker and Squigs back and Dodo. They've been in there for a long time. That kind of thing. There's a lot of different tactics that drivers or teams have used. And it's difficult from our perspective here to pinpoint what Sauber want from this season. We're, as you said, Thursday, we're racing on Wednesday next week. That's 6 days or 5, if you want to look at the time specifically. Every single team is full, besides Alpine and Williams, who are missing one driver. Not a big deal, that's okay. That's kind of what, some teams are trailing a little bit behind on that. Mals and Sauber only have 6 drivers, and their Div 1 and 3 are empty, as in they have a full Div 2, 4 and 5. Div 1 and 3 are completely empty. They are scoring 0 points around 1 with the lineup they have right now from 2 out of the 5 divisions. That is not the look that you want to be making on your competitors. It just shows like you're not prepared. That's all it is, really. The best options have been nabbed. It's going to come down to potentially recruitment, which is a strategy that's been used by Alpine last season and the season before, where Snowy would recruit new drivers into the league. Maybe that's the direction that Miles is looking. I think we've got 6 days. The only other option for Miles, I think, from this point of view, like you said, is 3 races in, or 2 or 3 races in, whenever we decide to do division moves. If there are any, the divisions are quite close. The risk of there being none is quite high, and even then, it's a threatening and risky strategy there. And just from face value, even if you look at the drivers that they've got in, the 6 drivers they've got in, none of them I'm looking at and thinking this is going to be a star man. They've got no lead driver. They've got no big point scorer. Mm-hmm. It's not comforting as an outside person to look in, and it's upsetting as well because Sauber have a great history behind them. In terms of statistics, and I love my statistics, right? They've won a trophy before. They won a Div 3 Constructors Championship back in Season 1. They finished 2nd in the OCC. And from there, they've just progressively got worse. 2nd, 5th, 9th, 10th. And we're predicting them 10th again. We need some traction. We need some grip. We need some momentum. We need something. We need some hints about what Sauber are cooking up. And I hope it's something. But I have put them 10th as well.
I think as well with P9, I've gone for a team which are going to suffer from a lot of the same things. I think they're kind of gonna. I've gone for Aston, and I feel like the only difference there between Aston and Sauber, I think Sauber's missing inspiration. I think Aston's missing attention to detail. And I'll give this kind of example right now. I obviously signed an Aston Martin driver start of this window. I don't think the team principal realised that driver's value increased by about 20 million when the seasons changed, because they signed off on a value that was agreed before those season 5 values came out, and they agreed to that value still without any sort of hesitation. I, of course, as a competitor, wasn't going to point this out to him. Yeah. But it's a slight concern from Not to put him on blast, because Brewdog is more than capable of these kind of things. It's that kind of attention to detail that's going to really kind of differentiate what teams are going to find footholds in this season and find footholds in the OCC and climb their way up, where and the teams that are going to just kind of maybe be stagnant. Because this isn't even a matter of, oh, you have to actually be bad to go down. You could be good and be last in this OCC. Like you have to actually have footholds. You have to dig your own feet in. You have to be aggressive in some aspect. You can't exist and score points. You can't exist and come fifth anymore. Like maybe season one you could exist and come sixth, seventh. You can't do that anymore. You're just going to come last. And I feel like Aston are slightly in that risk of just relying on too much and just we'll score by just existing, and they need a bit more direction and just that attention to detail, because it's small things like that 30 million extra they potentially could have got for that driver is going to go a long way.
Yeah,
in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, you've taken the words out of my mouth. P9 I've also put Aston, and absolutely exactly what I would have said. You said attention to detail. If you look, I mean, looking at Sauber's lineup from just a blank canvas, they've got lots of gaps. They're missing drivers, and that's one thing. So immediately you're like, okay, Sauber, they're going to be at the bottom. If we look more into detail on Aston Martin's lineup, and you actually look at the drivers they've got in, first of all, we can start at the bottom. Fiver being sold for as less as he did, despite his improvements in that team, is I was curious. Obviously, I'm not going to pick it up. It's none of my business. I'm just there to confirm signings. But it was curious that he went straight away, early into the window. Aston Martin sold, who was a potential great driver in this upcoming season. If you look more specifically, they've got, I mean, you can look at Division 4. They've got Brownist, who has come up from a lower division, so hypothetically, he's not going to be straight at the front. And Micah, who certainly won't be. I mean, we've seen him last season. He is more of a back marker in that division. Division 3, Kickstrin and Benjo, two of the lowest attendance Div 3s we've got. Division 2, Lynx and Neb. Neb's a good call, but he's got wheel issues. Lynx, again, attendance. And Division 1, ICU and Nardo. Nardo is one of those ones we talked about where he's a rapid one but might not show up. ICU, low attendance. So it's almost like they're in the same situation as Sauber, where there are gaps, but you've got to look closer to see that there are gaps. I mean, it's tricky, and especially with the new rules coming into the contract, where you've got to pay extra to sign people for longer. The simple way to put it is the value of 10 mil, for example, is allowed a lot more than it was last season. Because values have gone up, prize money's gone down, etc., almost like inflation. And I think that it will catch up on Aston Martin. And I think that while it looks like they've got those gaps filled, they haven't. It's going to be a lot more difficult now for what Alpine did last season to happen, where going from a lower team to just progressively just go and go straight up to the top. I think that's going to be a lot more difficult to do. And I don't think this is an Aston Martin lineup that's going to be able to do so. So I've agreed with you, and I'm going to say P9.
Fair enough. Hit me with your P8.
Yes. P8. I'm interested how far up we can go until we go different.
We're maybe differentiate. I think we're the same here as well. I think we might be the same here.
P8, I've gone for Haas. Do you agree?
Yeah.
P8 Haas, it's going to be, I think Haas will be Aston Martin's main rivals. Looking, again, we can look more detailed into their lineup. Well, actually, before we look at details into their lineup, I want to talk about the TP. Baldy, I think he gets a bad shtick. He had a role in TP of Alpine right at the start of XRS's existence back in season 1, and it wasn't the success that maybe he hoped for. It wasn't on high on his priority list, and naturally the team dropped. I've been really pleasantly surprised with his role in Haas, and he there's clearly passion there. He clearly cares, and I think that's really, really important. And it's similar for a driver's point of view, caring about the results, just like a TP, caring about the results. He actually cares, and he's on it, and he wants his team to do well. I think that's fantastic. That's great. So from that point of view, that's really good. Looking individually at the drivers, it's the same as Aston Martin in the sense that there's no there's no star driver. There's no driver in that lineup where I'm thinking they're going to be a big boy. They're going to be a main role in that team, and they're going to be scoring lots of points. I suppose you could look at Division 1. I think that might be their odd one out. I think Tom Roberts is a fantastic driver. I think Josh Rose is one of the best in the league. Division 1, it's that situation of the regulars versus the randoms that are really, really quick that show up. So I think there's a discussion for that. It's a risky one to be quick in, really, if anything. The rest of the lineup, I think they're just. I'm not getting a spark. I'm just not getting that spark, really. I think they'll be good. I don't think they'll be great. There's not much more to say. But what about you? You've agreed with me. For us as well.
Yeah, I've agreed, and again for a different reason than the other two. To be honest with you, I think I do agree with what you said about Baldy gets an unfair reputation in certain aspects. I think yes, his time at Alpine wasn't the most successful, but I think that's clouded a lot of people's judgments on him. I think he has the capability to field a good team, but unfortunately, I don't think he's been able to do that this season. I think his problem's going to be it's just bad business. I think Haas just haven't really done that well in the transfer window, to be honest. I think the decisions some of the drivers they might have signed, I don't know if they are panic buys, but some of them look like they might be. Some of them maybe just aren't going to be just big picture looking, even maybe aren't going to work out the way that maybe Baldy hopes. I just don't think their business in the transfer window has been as good as it needs to be to push them further up than 8th, to be honest. And that's just my humble opinion.
Yeah, not much more to say. Moving on to P7, I think for me, in my predictions, there's a bit of a gap. I think there will be a couple hundred point gap between 7 and 8. I think there is a bit of a difference in those teams. I don't know if that's the same for you. P7, I have gone for the Silver Arrows. I've gone for Merck. Is that where we've gone different? Actually, don't tell me yet. Maybe you haven't. This is where it gets a little bit closer. Merck, I think there is a visible difference in who they've opted to go for versus Haas. And yes, obviously there's the destroyer track issue, which we talked about earlier, where there was a front runner who was just sat on the sidelines and they just managed to pick him up. So fair enough. They've got, you could say, lucky in this transfer window in some of the signings. But certainly let's not disregard the ones they've already got. We've got a lot of drivers who I think will be solid at the front. I think certainly their standout lineup will be Division 2. It's difficult, as you said earlier on, where a standout lineup in Division 2, which is probably the closest, it might not be as standout as you think. You know what I mean? There's 2 front runners, but everyone's kind of a front runner.
It's a risky strategy. It's a risky strategy. Like if you look at the likes of like Ferrari, or maybe Ferrari by example, but if you look at Alpine even, they've got some big units in lower divisions which are a bit more spaced out. Like all the divisions are close, but there's so many teams that have spread their eggs over particularly the lower divisions as well. Like I think there's actually on that point, because I'm going to say I think an OCC is decided mostly in the lower divisions, and on that point there's been so many times where Ferrari have won OCCs because they've got right with the lower divisions and developed strong. I think Mercedes are the other way around. They're very top heavy. I think Division 1, they've got some strong lineup, but then there might be caveats on attendance. And I think Division 2 is their strongest lineup in terms of, compared to the average strength of field of the divisions, their 2 drivers. I think the the 2 Mercedes Div 2s are up there. But the Division 2 is so tight. Like the fact there's reserves in there who could be... there's reserves right now not signed who could arguably fight for the title in that division. Just to give you an idea of how close that division is. So to have your eggs in the top end basket isn't going to do your overall that good. There's going to be big points being scored, and there's a chance they can fight for constructors in Div 1 and stuff. But Fetch is probably going to end up having to put all his eggs in those 2 baskets to try and get those 2 trophies, and it's going to leave the lower divisions so neglected that they're going to really suffer that OCC. And that's why, yes, I have agreed with you. I put them in 7th for you, still in alignment.
Wow.
I don't really see them breaking through that mold. They also, if I'm not mistaken correctly, are a team with some seats still yet to fill. That's why, like, I do agree. There's maybe sorry, are they or are they not?
No, they're completely full. They're done.
They're full. Okay. So when I put them 7th, then there's a few drivers who I need to catch up on. They've signed since then, but there was that little bit of that kind of, again, almost hesitantness from the TP in the transfer window. Like there's signing someone's as a TP is a bit more than just like going, I want that driver, pen to paper. There is a commitment from you. There is a, like, you put, like, to make the announcement, to send the contractor a driver, or to send the contractor a driver to sign the contract form and then send the announcement. There's a degree of commitment there, and there's almost a degree of hesitation from Fetch, I think, so far in the transfer window, to just really put the eggs in the basket and commit to a driver. Go, right, you're going to be my future project. You're going to be the guy who turns our Division 5 around, or Division 3 around, or Division 4 around. And I just think Mercedes are a little top heavy in some aspects.
Yeah.
If those top boys are as interested as Fetch is in that team's overall, then they're going to fly, because those top boys are going to give that injection of life and that injection of information and data and support and just pace and speed and advice and those kind of things. But typically that doesn't necessarily be the case. So I think Mercedes are too reliant on those two top divisions, and I think those top divisions are the less reliable ones. So it's kind of that's why they're the bottom of the midfield for me.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think we've seen the most activity in the top teams often is the lower divisions, and I think that's reflective of actually development as well, as you said, and them able to just improve over the season. And relying on the top divisions is a tricky card to pull. But and yes, also there's also the level of hesitancy. The fact that Fetch was one of the last TPs to fill his team is reflective of that. So I think that's fair. P6, and this is where it started to get quite tight. So I think this could go any of a couple ways. P6, I've gone for Alpine, and before we go anywhere, before we even, have you put the same thing? No way. But before we even discuss Alpine, I want to say first of all, this is not a shot at them losing their ground. Alpine had a terrific season last season, going from literally the lower end of midfield to the front. And to say they're going to finish P6, it sounds like we're slating them. We're really not. First of all, the lineups are just getting better. Like the standard average of lineup is ridiculous.
Every season.
Every season. I give this example every single time we're here filming this video. Ferrari Season 1 is actually still the OCC that won with the biggest gap. I think it was like 350 points. Bigger than any gap that's been won by any OCC. It's the most dominating OCC win we've had. That lineup in Ferrari, 9th, I think they'd be scraping 9th. And that's the biggest OCC winning lineup. It's got to the point where to win an OCC, all 10 of your drivers are looking at a drivers' championship. And that's, I mean, first of all, it's an incredible situation to be in. That's great. That's fantastic. Our league has got to the point where the top standard is the top standard. The problem is that with Alpine is that they have a lot of good drivers. They have a lot of okay drivers. And the issue with having any okay drivers is it just drags you down so much in our predictions. They've got a lot of big names. I think Mafia will do fantastic. I think Ransdale is someone to keep your eye on. I think Kalik will do fantastic. I think Kian is someone to keep your eye on. Panda and Blake, we've got a double championship Division 4 lineup. Alpine's also one of the teams that hasn't filled their lineup entirely yet. They've got a gap in Division 5. So we're waiting to see who they fill with that. I think it's going to be very tight in this midfield in the OCC. And I think Alpine will do well, and I think P6 is not something they should be disappointed with. I think that would be a good finishing. But Blake is a very capable TP. We've seen him in 2 roles previously. McLaren, where he did okay, but Red Bull where he really excelled, and he brought Red Bull up to P4. They're still their best finishing OCC position back in season 3. Yep, my knowledge is good. And I think he'll do a very similar thing. I don't think it'll be an immediate reaction, but I think we'll see Alpine up at the front in a season 6 and 7. But for now, they should be happy with P6. I think that's good. But what about you? Same thing. Same prediction.
I'm noticing we might be the same till the very end, which is why I wanted to get the elephant out of the room.
That's great. That's good.
I think Alpine. There's one too many average drivers in there, and I'm not going to say who, because I don't want to just call out people on the podcast. And also the times I've done that previously where they've gone on to win titles or something stupid. So I seem to
That's
have
good. It's a motivation.
I seem to be the biggest motivator, but yeah, I think there's a few drivers who are just average of the field, and I think when there's so many like monsters in so many of those other lineups that's going to, as an average, fall against you. The reason why I put them below the team I put them above, the reason why I put them below the team that I put above Alpine, is because they haven't fully filled their lineup yet. I think if they filled their lineup early and it's a strong, the remaining seats are still filled with title contending drivers, I would potentially have put Alpine one more position higher. But at the team above them, we've got a full lineup from them. We've got a full picture, and it's been all the teams remaining have incredible lineups in most of the divisions, if not all of them. I just think there's too much fluctuation between how strong some of the divisions are and some of them aren't. I think Blake is going to need a season to kind of just. I think Blake needs a season to identify where those holes in his ship actually are, to see where he's leaking water, to see where that points aren't being scored, and at the end of the season he'll be able to look at the average point scores from different drivers and compare two teammates together and compare two divisions in terms of how fruitful they were for points. And I think then they're going to be looking back at the top three, depending on how he does how he responds to that data in that then transfer window for season 6. I think that's going to be very telling. But I agree. I think he needs that. To say Blake isn't capable of any of that, but I just think he needs that season to get that fuller picture. I just don't know if he's got that, because he's come into that team quite late. He's come into that team quite suddenly, and I don't think he'd been preparing the way that I had been preparing when I came in. Because when I took over Ferrari back in KRL, I'd been asking for it for about 3 weeks, because the team principal at the time wasn't really that responsive. So I'd already had an idea of what I was doing. And then I had 2 weeks of a season, 3 weeks of a season to finish then as well. So I had about essentially 2-3 months in advance to start mentally preparing for that TP role. Blake hasn't had that, and I think he needs that time to identify where the holes are, and especially with the lineups being shaken around so much and he's missed out on a few drivers. It's going to be the end of the season till he fixes it, and then with the shake up of the new game, he will hopefully have enough of a picture of his own team and be able to spot the opportunities with the shake up of the new game that hopefully will get some mixing up. But yeah, I think they're there for that. I think they're there in that position. I think they'll deserve it, and they will finish there, and they will feel like that's below where they deserve, and they will probably be justified in that feeling. It's just going to be such a hard fought OCC this season. So
yeah, I agree. I think that's one. No way are we going to follow, because we're always quite different for OCC, but is there a chance that we go completely complete the same until the end?
I think this might be the separator. Okay, I've gone for VCOP. I'm going to pause in suspense. You've done it as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've gone for VCOP.
Go on.
I think so. VCOP are resident P4s, and obviously I'm predicting them P5.
Yep.
I think Mr. P4's left the team, which was Matt. I think now we cracked this joke about them being Mr. P4 and all that kind of stuff, and Matt being the stuff. Now Matt has gone on to his new venture at McLaren. I will give him his flowers. To consistently be P4 is an achievement. Over so many seasons, over 2 different leagues, to constantly be adapting to the field of play, while some teams go second to last in Sauber's case, last to second in Alpine's case. There's so many teams fluctuating up and down the field. Mercedes were at one point in KRL were fighting, because I know KRL's kind of lost in translation these days. Only those who will remember the time will be able to access it, because all the servers have been deleted and everything, so it is all just lost to the wind now. But those who remember will remember that Mercedes at one point, which fed onto this league, Mercedes were fighting for an OCC in those KRL seasons. They fluctuated a lot, and through every single season, VCarb have just been there. When they were AlphaTauri, when they were VCarb, when they were Racing Bulls, whatever you want to call them, whatever the team they branded themselves at, they've always been there. And that's an incredible achievement to Matt. It's the only thing that I've been able to hold on to myself. Not to transition to talk about Ferrari, but we'll talk about it more, I'm sure later on. But the only thing that I've been able to take pride in over my last few seasons is the consistency of being at the top all the time. Yeah, VCarb to be always fourth, always fighting for that third position, always threatening to break into that OCC fight. That's an achievement in itself. I think they've lost their figurehead. It is a bit like when a football team loses that big manager. Like you do have a knock-on effect. I think that knock-on effect. I think Laston's going to take it on well. I think Matt has prepared him well for that role. I think Laston's taken to league racing very well. He's gone from Division 5 to Division 4 very quickly. He actually asked me before we even had the meeting if he could go Division 4, so that shows me his attitude's in the right kind of place. I think he'll be back fighting for that 4th and 3rd place in Season 6 if he continues on the trajectory he seems to be on. But I think losing, unless they're going to do a Liverpool and lose one of the biggest managers they've had ever and still perform well, we'll not talk about what just happened in the Champions League at point of recording, but moving swiftly on. But so unless Laston's going to be the next Arne Slot, I think VCarb are going to potentially drop a place in the OCC. And again, we talk about every season VCarb staying where they are and it being an achievement. I still think that's an achievement for Laston to come in and maintain them in that top half. Like that will be an achievement. Their lineup's good. Their lineup's looking strong. Like, God, I've talked a long time about VCarb here, but yes, I think that there's a good solid consistency and a good platform in there, and they just need to build up on it. But yeah, 5th for me.
Yeah, I mean, we're often very different with the OCC, like I said, but yeah, with OCC we're following the exact same path. P5 up at VCarb. I mean, we can disregard KRL. We can look just at the XRS seasons. 3 of the 4 they finished 4th, and in season 3 they finished 6th. And I mean, that 6th was within 150 points. Like they were in the running for 4th anyway. Yeah, I think I echo what you said. Within 3 games, 2 leagues, Matt has taken that team to consistently be there. No, maybe they haven't got the glamorous trophies and they haven't got the results maybe to reflect one of the best teams being VCarb. But what they do have is constantly having a very solid lineup and always
best of the rest
up front where they need to be. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And so yeah, I think I'll do some other thing. I think Lassiter coming into the role of VCarb is tricky. He was suggested to us by Matt to take the TP role, and we listened to him and we went for it. I think he'll do well. I don't think dropping a spot is against him. It's Alpine, something to be disappointed with. I think if you can hold on to the top 5 and keep that team in a competitive position, I think we can look to the future. And going into the new game, if Laston can have a quick knowledge and understanding of how the new game mechanics work and the strategies that come with it, I think that VCarb, maybe that is the push they need, the bit of traction they need. But for now, I think if they're able to, and what they have done, what they've shown us in this lineup, is they're able to continue with the rate they're working now, and a change in management isn't a big changing point in that. I think VCarb will do very solid. I think they've got a lot of interesting names there. They've got Spenny, they've got JB, they've got Fallow. Of course, they've got their Division 1 in Leo Lund. So yeah, I'm excited to see how they work, how they operate, and I think they'll do well. I think P5 is a good result for them. So yeah. Raven West P4.
Right.
No way. No way. Surely not.
If this is the same, then our 3rd place is going to be the same because we know what 1st and 2nd is.
Yeah. Well, no, I might have. But you don't know that. I mean, you don't know.
No, you put McLaren first. You put McLaren first, and you put Ferrari second. Like, don't lie to me.
Have I though? That's a good
So
question.
yes, you have.
Go on.
So P4, the only chance we're going to have it being different, but I don't necessarily think we are going to be. I've gone Red Bull.
Oh, there we go. We're in for it. Lovely.
It's
Go on
different.
then. We have. Go on. Tell me.
So you've gone Williams, and I've gone Red Bull. I think that Red Bull had the rug pulled out for them a little bit in the transfer window. I think they had a lot of drivers and a lot of things lined up in a lot of places that didn't come to fruition. And I think that's going to potentially come back to bite them a little bit. I think that the reason why Williams are going to edge out is because I think Williams have got all the men they wanted. They got all the drivers they wanted, like Moon went in and he had a plan and he acted on it. And I think apart from Mill, who he thought he was getting at one point, he's got every driver he was expecting to get. Because obviously that was the room. Not to say a pun, but the rumor mill was that he was going to Williams. So I think apart from him, Williams got pretty much every other one of their drivers they were looking to try and bag. They did good business. I think the Red Bull lost a few of their projects and a few of their cards. I think if they'd got all the drivers they were wanting to get, won them again. Speaking of Ferrari and the transfer business, we'll talk more about Ferrari later, I'm sure. Dylan being one of those drivers, the Red Bull did have an investment in. I know Deshuby at one point was talking to Red Bull. That's just a couple of these drivers that really would have made a difference and guaranteed them a P3. I think they're going to slip away. I also want to consider the Moon's commitment to Keys. And this isn't to say Key is committed to his role in TP and XRS. It's just not his only TP role. Whereas, as far as I'm concerned, Moon is fully focused on XRS as his main priority. I know Key is just has other roles, other commitments around the place. I think Moon's going to be paying slightly closer attention to detail when it comes to XRS than Key potentially is. I think if there's changes and adjustments to be made, I think Moon's going to act on them quicker, which is why I've also, and this is basically covering my P3 as well, but I think that's going to be significant towards the end of the season.
Yeah. I can cover my order. I have gone P4 Ferrari. Williams, P3 Red Bull. I agree. I think with the Red Bull was very, very hot in this transfer window in terms of rumours. Red Bull was because there was talk about them getting a lot of drivers coming over, and it, as you said, kind of just lined up for them. A lot of those deals didn't go through. Tetchaby being one of them, Squig being another one, and they've still come out of it with a lineup that I think is very solid, and I think. Yes, I think Key as a TP, I think he'll be a decent TP. I don't think he'll be the best. I think he will have his priorities elsewhere, or potentially in other roles he has in other leagues. Whereas I think you're right in saying that Gone to the Moon will have his full momentum on this Williams lineup. But I think just as the value of the lineup goes right now, I think Red Bull win it out because I think that Williams have taken too many risks. So both of them have got a non-regular in a Div 1 lineup, but if you look at the teammate, I think Mateo beats out BRT Knight. I think based on just previous performance, Williams have opted for.
I think that's crazy.
Division 2 they've got moved up. That's I think from the performances that we've seen from Mateo Manga, I think that's true. Williams opted for two drivers that have got moved up from Division 3. That immediately is difficult when it's a division that's so close, and you've opted for two people that have been moved up a division. I think Josh in Division 4 is a risk. I think that Zinc in Division 5 is a risk. Whereas Red Bull, I think they've gone for a more of a consistent lineup. I think LH44. I don't know who that is. That's a new face of the league that. Could potentially do good things. Besides that, I think all their drivers are either upper midfield or at the front, and I think that's gonna be good and consistent, and I think that'll work well with them for just bagging constant points, which is why I have edged them out. But I do think that I think in terms of the energy that's being put into teams, what Gone to the Moon has done in Williams in the last couple seasons that he's been TP has been fantastic. I mean, Williams were literally the back of the back. They finished 10th in season 3, and he's fully revived that team. They brought him up to 5th last season, which is a terrific achievement, which I think has maybe gone understated. I think they're going to improve up to 4th this season. And I think that improvement will continue going up. I think Red Bull will have this one-shot season and begin to go down again. Because I think, like you said, it did kind of line up for them. And I think beyond there, their good rivals will go to teams like Williams, who are consistently going on the up. So I think we'll see a lot of those big names in Red Bull. I mean, look at, even specifically, if you look at Red Bull's lineup specifically, so many drivers on one-season contracts. At the end of that season, how many are going to re-sign? That's going to come down to Key's ability as a TP. And I think there's better TPs like Gone to the Moon who has a bit more traction and a bit more momentum to making their team good. I think we might see some Red Bull drivers in Williams in season 6, which is interesting. But I have put Red Bull in 3rd place.
Okay.
So we did get something different before the big two.
And now we start arguing, yeah? Now we start arguing.
Let's keep it civil, Mr. Raven West. Let's not make it too entertaining for everybody.
Okay, so I'll
P2 Ferrari, P1 McLaren.
Through...
McLaren have McLaren are going to win. I mean, they have a better lineup overall. I think there's too many risks in Ferrari, and I think that the momentum that McLaren are bringing from winning two OTCs...
There's risks in Ferrari.
They've won it.
It's already started. I'm taking the mic out the stand. Right, this is where we get serious now.
Oh, we'll do it too. Hang on.
And I'm going to talk to you like this. So, one sec, this is all over the shop. Yep. There we go. So I need a Titan.
I don't know if you can still you might not be able to hear me actually.
It's all there we go. So here's all you need to know, right? Here's all you need to know.
Yeah. What do I need to know?
The notion that Ferrari have taken too many risks is ridiculous, to be honest. I think you, sir, are the one who's taken too many risks. I have actually gone from a philosophy of taking those risks before with development drivers and this, that, and the other, and I've decided to opt out of that and gone for more of the monsters. I think you, however, sir, you've gone for the old Raven West strategy, which is tire some guys who are in that midfield and try and bring them up. And I think it's going to be the thing that falls you over. I think every division bar 1, you're in a risk of some way or the other. I think we're looking at places like drivers like Matt and Pink as teammates. Those are two big jobs to manage. I think we spoke about this in private at one point. I'll echo what I said then. Last season you and this is again not to discredit you as an ability. I think you are going to be a fantastic TP. I think last season you had yourself to worry about and you had Pink to worry about, and you managed them both very well. I think this season you have yourself to worry. You don't have yourself to worry about in terms of a driver, but you've got 10 seats to worry about. You're gonna have a lot of emotions to worry about. You're gonna have a lot of drivers in very close fights. I think Matt's going to be a difficult ball to juggle. I think as well, and this is to leak my crazy prediction. I think you're going to end up racing more than half the seats, half the races this season, despite the fact you have two McLarens already signed in that div 3.
Okay.
And that's my crazy prediction is that you're going to end up doing at least 50% of the races this season, despite not being signed right now. I think there's going to be too many hemming and hawing in a few places. I think you're going to take a little too long to settle into the role. I think you're going to take you've taken too many risks for your first season, and I think the foundation that Ferrari have, and I always sit here and talk about how good Ferrari are going to be in these seasons, and I know I haven't won it in ages, but I also want to address this defense. Like we finished 3rd last season, and that's looked at as a failure, and I think if you look at the standard of quality that Ferrari are being held to when P3 is considered a failure, that it speaks for itself. The levels of just the levels that we put before the platform that's built in that team, the foundations that are there. I think you've taken a lot of risks and hot shots very early in your TP career, and I think when you stack that against the team with my foundation who are taking less risks, I think you're gonna fall short. Now it's up to you and your orange boys to prove me wrong, but I think unfortunately we're going to see a red OCC this season. I'm gonna put my mic back now because I've done my round.
Taking my mic out. Right, now it's my turn.
No, I'm holding it again. Go on.
I'm holding my mic now. I had to put it down because I didn't want to hold it like this. I think there's been... It's an interesting one. Because I think that this is the best Ferrari we've seen in a long time. And this is exactly what I said to the McLaren boys in our meeting. That Ferrari often go for the development route. Your direction is developing drivers that are lower and working their way up. And I think that it's evident that this season you have gone, you know what, through that and just thrown money at it. You've brought in almost all of the favourites to win the championships. And you've gone for the big names. I think that's a very out there strategy, and I think it will work for you. You'll do better than third. And you know what? I'm not even going to be like, I shouldn't be too cocky. You will be shooting for first. I think this is the best Ferrari we've seen in a long time. I think this is a better Ferrari than Mill has had to deal with in the last 2 seasons with McLaren, because Mill is in the Ferrari that is up against McLaren, which is an interesting little thing that's happened there. I think, and this was the very critical thing I said to Mill as well. I'm a good friend, so we can be honest with each other, but I'll say it here in a podcast as well. Mill and Dylan are probably the 2 big names, the 2 big signings that you brought in. I mean, disregarding Teshubi is just on another level. Teshubi doesn't count. It's specifically in moving down the division. We've got Mill and no one. Mill and Dylan.
Crazy.
People are looking at the names and who they are. Mill is this man from McLaren who won 2 OCCs and did an incredible management job. We're disregarding from the actual fact of what it is. Mill was a driver who wasn't quick enough, so got moved down a division. Dylan is a driver who wasn't quick enough and got moved down a division. I actually think that the McLaren and the Ferrari lineups are very similar. I think they've actually got a very similar backstory, almost, to how the drivers and how they've been brought into this team. I believe that my management, with the drivers that I brought in and the progression that I know they can make, as well as the mentality and the drive they all have, and I'm going to be giving to them throughout this season, will lead them to win. But I absolutely cannot deny that Ferrari will be an absolute threat. I think you've put together an incredible squad, and you know what? As a respectful, as a respectful competitor, it would be nice to see Ferrari win an OCC again. I think that, and I said this so many times. I think it's unfair to see your reign as a TP being 1 OCC in XRS because you won the last 2 in KRL. Technically, you had 3 back to back, but people don't see that. I think people need to realise that your ability as a TP. So I think that your lineup's very good. I will give praise where it's due. You will do very well. I think you'll win more trophies than you did last season. But
I hope so. Only one.
Yeah. But so I'll be respectful where it's due, and I need to be, because Ferrari is where I started my XRS journey as well. But in terms of backing my current ability, and I won't make a comment about me taking a seat because that's a situation I have to deal with at the time. I think that the mentality that my boys are bringing into this season, I think they're going to be driven. I think they're going to be there every single week, and I cannot wait to work alongside all of them. I think they're all big characters in the league. I think they're not afraid to speak their opinions. We've got a lot of regulars. We've got Snowy, we've got Liam, we've got Kua, we've got Mac and Pink. A lot of people who are often in general chat, and they know what they want. They're driven in how they talk, and they're very present, and they're very content in this season. I'm excited to work alongside them.
But yeah, I feel like, so just to even touch on the KRL stuff, the annoying thing about that as well is, from my perspective, is those OCCs were won not because of a Galactico signing approach. Like, those OCCs were won because there was development, there was recruitment made, and it was good recruitment that was flew under the radar of a lot of other teams. And like, Dodo was no one before he came to Ferrari. Like, Dylan wasn't really anyone until he came to Ferrari. Like, there's so many of these big names that came. Casper was midfield Div 3 before he came to Ferrari. Now he's fighting for
me, bro.
the 2 titles.
I was midfield. I was Casper.
Yeah, and it's been annoying that I've tried to carry that same philosophy into XRS, and it hasn't worked the last few seasons because there's been other teams going for a more Galactico approach that's worked. I've just adopted the Galactico approach this season. There's one. There's two drivers in here who are development potential drivers, but even still, like both of them, but both of those drivers as well have previously done it, which are I would say Fiverr and Dodo. Those are my two main development drivers. Everyone else in there is pretty much ready to go for the title. And I think those two drivers are two drivers who previously have been up there. So it's not even like it's finding a title fight for the first time. It's right. Let's just get you back to what you used to be doing, which was like fighting for titles in faster divisions. So I'm looking forward to both those developments. But yeah, I've minimised the need to improve over a season for this time round. I've just gone big. I just can't see. Yeah. I can't see with Mill also in the locker now as well. Like that's I brought him in to push me more than anything else as well. Obviously, a lot of people have talked about Mill coming over, and bringing McLaren stuff over with him. Obviously, Tashubi as well. I'll share because it was actually mentioned in the pre-season team meeting I had with Ferrari, and I shared my mentality towards that aspect there, and I'll share it here as well. My attitude is, for me, it's irrelevant what McLaren used to do. It's irrelevant what McLaren are going to do. It's irrelevant what any team used to do. It's irrelevant what any team's going to do. My focus is on us doing the best thing we can do. And if we can do all the things that we're supposed to do and do them all correctly and do them all right and give them the attention and the detail that they need, if we get all our steps right, it doesn't even matter what another team's going to do because we'll just win it. And that's my attitude with it. So I'm not bringing Mill in to tell me the McLaren secrets or tell me how you beat us. No, I'm bringing Mill in because I think he has a mould fits better to my system than he does his own system in a weird way as a driver. Like his system beat my system. I've changed my system slightly as a response to that. I've improved on my system. I brought in Mill to push me because he's the person who beat me the last 2 seasons. And if I don't win alongside him now, he's gonna see me as the variable factor. I know that. So for Mill's sake, Mill's gonna want to see an OCC win. He's gonna want to win 3 back-to-back as a participator in the team. Obviously, two as team principal. If he doesn't do that, he's going to see me as that difference, not himself. And he probably will look for a seat elsewhere. I'm going to lose a very good driver. So like that pressure's on me from Mill to perform. That's going to push me another level up. All the other things considered and all the waffle I've just done there and stuff like that, I just think it's looking like a red season. I think you're on the first season and you've taken. I think part of the fact that it's your first season and you are coming in on the back of your team winning the last 2. I think you've taken one too many risks to try and prove, these Avi decisions made a difference. You know what I mean? I think you've gone for a lot of Avi decisions, so that at the end of the season, if you're successful, you can go, they were my own team. And you can maybe at midpoint in the season also say, look, this is my team, this isn't Mill's team, this is entirely different McLaren. And I think that route will work potentially long run, but I don't think you're going to get immediate success. I think you're going to potentially fall short. And I don't think we'll break away, but I think there's a better chance of us breaking away than I think you guys breaking away. To be honest.
That's fair.
That's my view.
I think certainly, obviously, me as a TP, I've got the experience. Like, I haven't been a TP of anything ever in XRS. It's my first time. It's a job I look to take in the long term. I'm very, very excited. But yeah, my main role coming in, and certainly when a lot of contracts were leading to other drivers in other teams, obviously we've lost a lot of people who were in McLaren last season. My main thing was to make McLaren my own, to make McLaren work under my new system. And obviously, what Mill system worked for him and for his squad. I brought in a couple of new drivers, and from the drivers who stayed, a lot of them I work quite closely with. So obviously Pink and Liam and Throne being kind of the main 3, and obviously I'm going to be working a lot closely with them as well. So clearly my ideas and my resources and what I did bring initially to McLaren in the short time I did before my championship got a little bit too close and I had to deal with that first. It clearly worked and the improvements were there. And I think that, I think you're right. I think I've got more development drivers than you have. So I think in terms of, it's almost switched. I think I'm the Ferrari of last season and you're the McLaren of last season in terms of value. You've got the face value of go for it, and you've got the fast people straight away. And McLaren are looking more like the long-term goal. I think I can develop the drivers, and even at face value, I think they'll be there and they'll be quick enough. And I think they will win the OCC throughout the season, because I think in 12 weeks, they will be consistently all at the front. I think they'll all be consistently at the front, but I think they'll all be comfortably ahead in their individual championships by that point. And there's a lot of drivers here that I've wanted to work with for a while, and I think that I was pleasantly surprised last season with the reactions I got when I did work with people, the coaching I gave, and the advice I gave, the resources I was able to give to McLaren. I was pleasantly surprised about how effective it was immediately with the drivers I work with. So if I'm able to manage that, and I can do it for 10 drivers instead of just 3, then I think that we're in a really good spot, and that is kind of the root of why I'm so confident in this season. In addition to that, what pushed my confidence is when I went into that McLaren meeting. We had ours a day before you had your Ferrari meeting. The boys were ready to go. The boys were so eager to hit the track. They were ready. They wanted to know what round 1 was, and of course, those of you watching right now know what it is. But at that point, they didn't, and they were ready to go. They wanted to know where they'd be racing in round 3. They wanted to know exactly, because they were starting their practices. They were trying to cover as many tracks as possible, just in case. They were ahead of the game to when I'd already got prepared. It's almost like I turned up to training for our first training session. They were already warm. They were already playing their first match. They were already good to go. I've been so pleasantly surprised this season with the boys I've brought in. What people in other teams seem to think as a risk, I've seen as maybe on the edge, and I've just been comforted by how well they fit into the group. I think a lot of the drivers get on well together, and I cannot wait to see how they work well and how they work throughout the season. But it will be close. Ferrari v McLaren. That's the 2 best teams next to us head to head for the 5th time.
I wish you all the best of luck with it, to say the least.
You too. I'm very excited to see how this all reels out. It's gonna be.
Because I've noticed you're wearing a McLaren jacket because you're a little scumbag. I'm looking around. Let me find something red to put on quickly. Let me just give me.
Don't hang on. Don't just stay there, right? I'm going on.
No. He's gonna go get his fucking McLaren jacket. Give me a second. There we go.
Hang on, boy.
We have. I need a fake. I need a Ferrari logo of some kind to stick on this. But there we go. This will do for now. Oh, there we go. Bit more red in this motherfucker. There we go. Much better. Look at that disgusting.
The day that my boy Matt brings back a championship, I'll be wearing this badge. I'll be wearing it alongside him, and I cannot wait for that day.
Absolute. See, here's how you know there's heritage in this team. This isn't even a Ferrari jacket, but you see red and you know immediately what it is. That's heritage, right? That's you give a car, you give a kid a race car to draw and he colours it in red. That's how you know. It's racing is red. Racing is red, and none of this McLaren
Racing might be red, but XRS is looking very papaya for the last few seasons.
Yeah, and the man who made it, the man who painted that is in a red seat, because even the man who defeated Ferrari for several seasons, who sat there spitting at the name, cursing at the drivers, reveling at the logo, even he can't resist the temptations of that sweet scarlet Ferrari, the Scuderia. And this is what you don't understand. It's unspeakable. It's aura. That's all it is. It's all it is. To put it bluntly, it's aura.
So we're about to find out.
McLaren just don't have that aura.
We're about to find out. Is McLaren the greatest team because of the man who led it, or is it because of the badge? I'll tell you right now, it's the badge. I have the honour of leading.
So not you, not you. It's just the badge. It's not you. It's just the badge.
I will do my best to honour the badge, because it will be the badge, this badge that is lifted on the trophy once again. 3rd Constructors OCC in a row, the best team in XRS. And I'll be wearing these
Can't allow
colours
that to happen.
every time I engineer, every win, every loss.
allow
Doesn't
that.
matter what happens. I'll be here for these boys. This badge all over myself. I will get a tattoo if I need to. End of the season.
Here, actually, Mill, have you got yours yet? Because absolutely, you were supposed to do, were you not? Have you?
That's
have
true,
You got
yeah.
yours yet, Mill? Big man thing. But yes, I will. Here, I will get a Ferrari fucking sleeve if I have to win this fucking overall. So we'll let's not talk about tattoos. But anyway. I think
Some
Abby-
bad bets very publicly can be made here.
Yes. While we're on record, we'll not make the promises. But Abby, I think that wraps up our predictions. I think that's what our pre-thoughts in the pre-season, in the build-up. Obviously, by the time that you guys see this, calendar will be revealed. But for us, it's tomorrow or later tonight. Very much looking forward to that.
Yes, if we have predicted you, if we haven't predicted you, then absolutely prove us wrong. If we have predicted you, then prove us right. I cannot wait to see how close these divisions are going to be. It's going to be a real title fight. It's going to come down to the wire. I wish you all the best of luck, and I will see you on track very, very soon in Silverstone.
Indeed. Best luck to all the
Goodbye.
drivers, best luck to all constructors, and best luck to all TPs. Adios.